Boston, Cam Waters, almost the same situation. Better contact going down to the hill. Sam Noble with a simple name, Coleman down. Sam Noble. Oh, right now. And take one reset it. Dodd's just absolute. These competitors here, really nice move. Blake Delaney had to move out of the way.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first broadcast of the 2023 Sim Racing World season. We are here tonight for the V8 Supercars Amateurs Only Series in the Round 1 race at Donington Park Circuit. Proudly brought to you by tonight's round sponsor, Racecraft Simulations. Ladies and gentlemen, Sim Racing World action about to get underway. We are just about to head out into your open qualifying session. My name is Scotty Rattle Gun Rankin, alongside Brendan Walton behind the scenes on cameras. We have Rob Sainted Lord with us here tonight. And I tell you what, Brendan, first broadcast of 2023. It's been a little bit antsy. It's been a long time in the making. Unfortunately, trucks didn't make it to us last night, and everyone missed out on a fantastic victory by that great SRW driver. What's his name again?
Mate, I've never heard of him, but it certainly was an impressive drive. And I guess I must pass my congratulations on to you, Scotty, starting out the truck season with a W. Hey, look, it's going to be pretty exciting here tonight. This is a bit of a new thing for SRW. Running an amateur-only series in the V8 Supercars. Obviously, V8 Supercars, the pride and joy of Australian and New Zealand motorsport. So it's great to see some of these guys who perhaps don't quite have the pace to compete with the big guys here in our league, to give themselves a bit of track time, a bit of experience, and hopefully some what's the word I'm looking for? Fairer racing.
Look, I see this as sort of more of an open track night on a Tuesday night. It's a little bit more relaxed. It's, not necessarily going absolutely mental for a championship. The car that you're actually looking at on screen, Brock Mottershead, does compete on the Sunday nights as well. It's just an opportunity for these guys to get some more track time, get themselves acclimatized, maybe do some setup tinkering, maybe do some race strategy tinkering. What fuel can I save? What can I do in this situation? Where can I park the car? It is the perfect opportunity for the Sim Racing World drivers to really ensure that they're getting the required track time to be at their best. And more importantly than that, if anyone's interested in getting involved in Sim Racing World V8 Supercar action, this is the ultimate way to get yourself acclimatized to the series and everything that's going on. There's a few drivers up and down the grid that you'll be acclimatized to seeing as well from last season. One on board with right now is Andrew Cowan. Of course, commentates on a Wednesday and Thursday night, I believe, here as well. So you'll be hearing his dulcet tones throughout the week as he'll start his first qualifying lap of the season. And Brendan, Donington Park, British racing track, and kicks us off with the first of the Ashes rounds. We're having that famous playoff, Australia versus New Zealand. We'll see which of the drivers like it better, but Donington's one of the classics, one of the absolute legacy tracks that hasn't seen a lot of huge, major series racing in the recent history.
Yeah, certainly in more recent times, you tend to see it sort of in your club day cars. I know the Radicals in the UK in real life run there quite a bit, as well as the Praga series and sort of your the UK Cup car, I think they're called, which is kind of open to pretty much anything with four wheels and a motor. It's something that the V8 Supercars, I think, would be well suited to. It kind of gives me like a Phillippi Island vibe. There's some long sweeping corners, there's some different camber changes, a couple of long straights, a couple of tight technical corners, the sort of things that you see on those Australian tracks that kind of create a nice contrast, I think. That are going to really allow these V8 Supercars to sort of come through, and it's also going to let the drivers sort of practice those skills. Obviously, we know that the V8 Supercar is not a driver-friendly car. There's no assist, there's no traction control, there's no stability control, nothing like that. So it's a great track for drivers to really get in and get familiar with these cars early on.
One of the biggest things I think is probably quite critical, especially to being in a development series, wide track, very, very wide track. lots of runoff areas, although you can't go a little bit wide. You sort of just got to barely miss it and run wide, and you'll pull the car up. And perfect demonstration from Andrew Cowan. Cowan at that point in time, that is running a fraction wide as he did right there. Brad Wall still needs to change his CXR logo. Used to drive the Crisscross Racing team. No longer so. Now a Sim Racing World admin, and has been going from strength to strength over the last couple of seasons. Has really put himself in contention for a lot of championships of late. And he's one of the guys I sort of had my eyes on over the last couple of seasons, including was my TCR teammate. He's really put a strong stride forward in the last season. What's he got for 2023, Brent?
Yeah, look, I think I have to agree with you there. Brad's sort of certainly come a long way in the last year throughout the racing, and sort of getting to the point ends a little bit more. His consistency certainly improved, and as we go through, I think you sort of mentioned there the keeping it on the track and keeping in those consistent lap times is going to allow for some better results. We see him there, he's really starting to come to grips with the car, he's finding his rhythm, he's getting through his corners nicely. Whereas we've already seen some drivers struggling to keep the car pointing straight. As we cut away there to Carl Hodgkin, another CXR driver evidently.
Do you have a direct line?
Turn one.
Do you have a direct line to these drivers? Because like you basically just said, look, yeah, you can go a little bit wide, you can run a little bit wide here, and then the driver's like, yeah, look, let me demonstrate for you. So demonstration is the first thing. It's actually really good to see Callan Hodgkinson. So to give a lot of the drivers and the people around the series a little bit of backdrop, Sim Racing World originally grew out of a previous league that ran under the name of Force Racing League. I was pleasured enough to be a part of it and be around with a ton of those drivers, and one of the drivers that was around in those early stages, Callan Hodgkinson, Jake Edwards, Stephen Sinkovic, Dean Sinkovic, Greg Leake, Greg Johnson, John McHenry, Brad Wall, all these guys were just sort of out and around and a really, really big part of it. It became a big, thriving community of guys that jumped in cars, had a giggle, had a drive, and learned something out of it just about every time. Everyone that was in there was like, oh, yeah, do this with your bars. Oh, what did that feel like? Oh, this did that. Okay, well, we'll throw that out the window. We'll try something a little bit different, have a little bit of fun. And it was very unserious. And that grew of a community of maybe 10, 12 drivers, and every season they'd add 3 or 4 more drivers. The thing about Force Racing League was they never seemed to lose drivers. And then they've come to SRW to put on a little bit more of a professional phase, really tune things up. And 2023 is the year, if you're a sim racing world fan, that they're going to go from strength to strength. Things are going to start happening in terms of big things. We've already seen it with terms of Channel 31 jumping on board and now being broadcast on TVs down in the southern part of Australia as well. So keep your eyes peeled. And again, it's one of those things that there's a couple of communities that I've been a part of throughout the iRacing journey as well. And to be honest, and this is going to sound biased because obviously I'm an SRW admin and I'm a commentator here as well, but I became an admin and I stepped up to an admin and a commentary role because I loved the community and I loved what was going on here. I loved the camaraderie. I really loved the culture. And that's why I stepped up. I didn't step up and stood here because I went, oh, things are going wrong. I stepped up and went, I love this community. What can I do to help, guys? And I don't think there's a better place I can really push it out to a lot of people if you're looking at potentially getting involved in sim racing. You've just picked up your first ever little tiny tots wheel. You've got a Logitech G29, G25. You've got maybe one of the more newer True Force wheels. Whatever your equipment, whatever your hardware, provided you've got a computer, provided you've got a desktop computer, even a laptop. I've seen guys race on laptops. Actually, big shout out to Lachlan Capel, who used to race on a laptop in SRW as well. It can be done. These guys will get you in, they'll get you going, they'll teach you what you need to know, they'll help you improve, and you'll be out here each and every week. And this is probably the series, if you're a V8 Supercar fan, to jump out there and glow a few brake discs, as we see Ray Oliver making sure that he melts whatever metal was available to him down into turn number 1.
Yeah, and I mean, look, it was an impressive list of names you rattled off there before, Scotty, and, I don't think those guys would mind me saying, none of them really superstars when it comes to being...
Oh, no, absolutely.
In the sim rig, but just a genuine bunch of great guys, and I think that's what's really built the foundations of SRW, is just genuine guys out there for a good time. Yes, the racing is a little bit more professional now to what it was 3-4 years ago as Force Racing League, and we have started to attract some bigger names and some more competitive drivers.
But the culture's still there.
The culture is still the same. The culture is still the same.
Yeah, you have a look at the series that are going on. You know, now if you'd have said to a bunch of these guys that we'd have an oval racing series and these guys would be partaking in it and enjoying and learning something about it, I think every single one of them that was out there back when it was just a Porsche Cup and a V8 Supercar League, would have looked at you, pointed, laughed, and gone, "Yeah, that'll never happen." And there's been a few of those guys that have been on the uptake. Right, who's setting qualifying laps as we start to dip on through? We're just past the halfway mark in terms of the qualifying session. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever on a Tuesday night, we are going to have a top 10 shootout coming your way, all thanks to the proud sponsors of Sim Racing World as well. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. What you see out on track at this point in time is not done. I'm still seeing about 5 or 6 cars yet to set a time. There's a ton more cars that have registered for session. Brock Motterhead leads the way currently. Luke McClimate in P2, Ray Oliver, Cowan, Wall, Martin, Visser, Hodgkinson, Willis, and Taylor. We've now got 10 drivers who have set a lap, and a ton of drivers that are on laps at this point in time. So the margin that you do see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, the 0.129, that is between those two drivers' best laps, and the margin you see between their laps in terms of relative, that's how far apart they were on the track when those laps were completed. So that doesn't mean a whole bunch in qualifying at this point in time. Oh, just seen Brad Wall in the background have a huge moment just up ahead here, and we're actually looking at Brock Motterhead, I believe, at this point in time, who's potentially on for another lap, but there's a list of drivers that are out there and on laps at the moment. Have you got your eye on anyone thus far?
Yeah, look, I mean, I look through the entry list, and I think you've kind of covered your main ones. I think Cowie's going to be one to watch. Ray Oliver definitely going to be someone to watch here. Very prominent in the GT3. Obviously felt like he'd like a bit of time here down in the development series in the supercar. Perhaps it's not his strong point, but he's always been a pretty regular contender up there in the Frog Leap juiced car in the BMW last year. So definitely one to watch as he makes himself more comfortable in the supercar. Peter Pavlovic in here as well. Again, another very prominent driver. He raced in the AM class last year for SRW in the GT3 series. Again, another driver who I think is looking to get a bit more seat time, get a bit more familiar with the V8 supercar. So certainly a couple of guys there who have had talent in other series that SRW put on, and will be ones to watch as they get more familiar with these cars.
And something I really liked about what you just pointed out there as well was Ray Oliver. It might be a good opportunity to sort of zero in on him if we can, if he's actually out on a lap at this point in time as well. I can tell you, Ray is just about an all-rounder. He will jump in and he will have a crack at anything, and the guy is a genuine nut for banter. His banter game is absolutely on point. You ever ask Nathan Allen how much he loves the banter game that comes out of Ray Oliver? Always quick with a joke, and they've got a very, very big team. Acquisition, actually, very recently, Frog Leap Juice Racing, of an SRW regular name that I think a fair few of our viewers and fans may know. Harry Dodds has just joined the lineup over at Frog Leap Juice Racing, just very recently relieving himself of duties with Precision Sim Racing and teammate to Andrew Cowan. No longer the case. He's now in the blue, black, and silver. Blue, black, silver, and white over at Frog Leap Juice's. Ray Oliver will start to put the laps in, so that's an important acquisition for that team and a change-up. What success for Harry Dodds in the US open wheel cars last night. Immediately jumps up in his first SRW race of the season, posts the second place in a car he is very not familiar with. Mr. Steven Sinkovic is going to make his entry out on track in a legacy-styled Team SRW livery, and immediately sets his sights on tearing every living shred out of those rear tyres. you could not pay me to be a Steven Sinkovic rear tyre there, Brendan. Would you prefer to be a front or a rear on that car?
Oh, I'd probably prefer to be the fronts on the car behind, to be honest.
Is there an option to be the spare tyre in the boot? Can I take that one?
You probably don't want to be the anti-roll bar, put it that way. But you know, obviously Stephen there, sort of, you know, obviously our main admin here at SRW. As you can see, his driving style is emphatic. Let's put it that way.
The car has always got some sort of attitude on it for Steven Sinkovic. That much is certainly part and parcel of his driving style.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Again, you know, we sort of we make fun of our boss here, but you know, this is the sort of series where it gives these guys, and we've mentioned it already, it gives them a chance with a few less guys on track, a bit less pressure with these, you know, top gun names, just to go out there, spin some laps, get familiar with the cars, and see someone shoot off the end of the Brad Wall shoot off the end of the first corner. You know, it gives these guys a chance just to go out there and get familiar with the car, have a bit of seat time, and hopefully get under grip, so that when they come in on Sunday night and they're racing in the main game, they've already had a chance to race on this track. They sort of are a bit more familiar with where they're going to be at, and hopefully we're going to see some better results from them in the main game.
Yeah. For those of you sitting at home, I think Tuesday nights we've got a little bit more of an opportunity to sort of sit back, relax a little bit, and perhaps talk a little bit more about the specifics of the car and what you might see some of these guys doing with the steering wheel, what you might see them doing with the pedals, what you might hear in all the audible notes you're going to hearing. And first and foremost, you know, one of the biggest things you're going to see in behaviour of a V8 supercar is you're going to see that rear end step out. Well, first and foremost, there's two ways that you can make the rear end step out on this car. Well, there's sort of three ways, actually. There is three ways. It is possible to do it three separate ways. Number one is, well, you've entered a corner too hot. You put a little bit too much steering input in, and the rear end just says, look, I'm not compliant to that. I'm not going to settle down. Number two is you pick up the right pedal, the one over on the right. What's that one called, Brendan?
That was throttle, I believe.
Yeah, but what's the term for it? Come on, you're the one with the term.
The gas pedal.
little bit too much jandle was what I was going for.
Too much jandle. Okay, sorry.
Yep.
I forgot that I was being the Kiwi in the broadcast. My apologies.
Yeah. Wait, you're not Kiwi?
No.
We didn't discuss this. You're Australian?
Yeah. Just sometimes.
Anyways, a little bit too much jandle, that's going to cause the rear car to step out. The third way is if you whack a little bit too much brake bias, rear brake bias. It's generally, we'll say that you're probably a little bit too hot in the corner as well, but sometimes you can add a little bit too much rear brake bias. There'll be a few different things that you keep a look for out throughout the night. Steering input's one of the major ones. A mix of steering input and too much gas will be the main ones. You won't see the rear end step out on the braking. Right, Brock Bottershead is just about at the back end of another lap here for the current session leader, and he has an advantage currently over Leith McClimate of about a tenth of a second, a little bit more than a tenth of a second as he'll cross the start-finish line here.
Yeah, it's pretty close throughout the field, really. You look at the top 5 or 6 guys, there's not too much in it. I say that as Brock goes and sets an absolutely blistering lap time, but you know, you sort of would expect in this kind of field to have quite a bit of disparity in the lap times. You know, the top 5, 6 guys, they're all pretty close. They're all within a second, which for a track like Donington is actually pretty good going.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing, particularly for the car style, it doesn't suit. I mean, we'll say it doesn't suit the track style, perhaps, and it's because of these, you know, the cars just basically don't like this style of track. But I think that really allows the driver character to show itself through and set up styling and how you look after tyre and how you position the car. And, you know, there's a million and another one. The instant that a car does not like a track combination, I think you see a lot more out of a driver in that instance. Right, we are now down into the final 3 minutes of qualifying, and with the way qualifying has been indeed set up here tonight, those drivers will be allowed to continue all the way through past the end of the session, I believe. So provided drivers are on a lap when that timer runs out. Although, actually, I'm going to go ahead and go back on that one as Andrew Cowan gets a wiggle on, finds a little bit of dirt on the right-hand side of your shot, and fires himself off into the left-hand side barrier from the direction we were looking back up. Of course, the driver, completely wrong way around. That is Callum Hodgkinson on screen, on grass, and on kitty litter. He'll try and shake that out of the grill of the number 12 Ford Mustang and settle himself back down once again.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting, you know, you talked about ways to rotate the car. One thing you sort of failed to mention too is external factors. So a track like this, you know, very easy to put a right rear in the grass, or a rear tire in the grass. You know, those curbs, they're not massive here at Donington, but certainly if you hit them the wrong way, particularly through a chicane, it's just enough to unsettle the car, and it's very hard to catch these things when you've had external factors, unbalance the car and settle it.
I was thinking you weren't going with that. I was thinking you're going for contact. You're maybe talking a little bit of race. Steven Sinkovic, again, displaying on cue what it's like to put a right rear in the grass. He's followed up with the left rear and also the left and right front.
I mean, let's be honest. Can I just say, I'm pleased to say that my commentator's curse from last season has not gone on me. Like, the amount of times last year broadcasting, commentating these guys, I would highlight a driver who had been doing very well, and they're within 3 or 4 corners in the wall.
I'm now accepting bribes to have your name removed from the server so that Brendan Walton cannot say your name. Ladies and gentlemen, we will remove your name from the server. We will make sure that he cannot talk about you and cannot invoke a curse. And ladies and gentlemen, Leith McClimate is just starting another lap, which will just about be his final one of the session. Other than that, there's a couple drivers on a lap that won't get back to start another one. And with 40 seconds left on the clock, this is just about going to be all she wrote. So we'll move straight on from here into a top 10 shootout. The moment comfortably through, and I think sort of anyone in the 29s is guaranteed to move on, will be Brock Watershead, Leith McClimate, Ray Oliver, Andrew Cowan, Brad Wall, Daniel Schultz will all be through. That will take us all the way down to P6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are not confirmed through, but very, very likely through. Your at-risk driver at this point in time is Petar Pavlovic, also out on track, taking the opportunity to set one more lap. 5 seconds on the clock now. And drivers coming through the last sector, Brendan.
Yeah, and I mean, Petar Pavlovic, they're sitting on the cusp at the moment in 10th position, but of course only 14 cars in the server tonight as well. We're sort of expecting maybe a little bit more numbers throughout the season as this sort of development thing goes on. More and more guys get interested, start to join in. So we are expecting bigger grids to grow off the success of this development series, but with 14 drivers, unfortunately now, only 4 of them will miss out as the qualifying session comes to a close.
You say miss out. Sometimes missing out on a top 10 shootout, it's an opportunity to run to the bathroom.
Well, that is true also.
And chill out. Sit in the background. Righto, so drivers starting from the rear of the field that have now been locked in, and indeed Petar Pavlovic was not safe in the final moments of that server as he will get knocked out. Steven Sinkovic will start P14. Ron Visser will start off the road just ahead of him. Brett Taylor and Petar Pavlovic will be alongside of each other on that row before we move into the driver that just knocked Petar Pavlovic out of that one. Brad Mays will be the first car out on track, followed by Callan Hodgkinson, Linton Willis, Stephen Martin, Daniel Schultz, Brad Wall, Andrew Cowan, Ray Oliver, Leith McClimate, and Brock Watershead. Go ahead and ignore those red highlights. That's unfortunately some coding issues that we're having in the background at this point in time. So go ahead and ignore those. Absolutely nothing to do with this. That's more to do with everything on a Sunday night, which is your Super 2 ratings, effectively. Remember, amateur and pro on a Sunday night. V8 Supercars, not the only V8 Supercars we will run throughout the week. We do have Sunday night racing as well, and they will be following a similar format. Are you a fan, Brandon, of the Ashes style, the best of Australian tracks versus the best of the British tracks? Because there's a few little nuggets in there of British interest that may not necessarily be for everyone's taste. I'm talking probably Snetterton and Knockhill are probably not going to be on a lot of people's wish lists.
Yeah, probably the 2 tracks I think most drivers would be most concerned about going into this season. Personally, I like the idea of the Ashes. I think it's a really cool concept. I think it's great when tracks have some kind of character or flow across a series. There's nothing more frustrating, I suppose, for me when you look at a series from a simulation point of view and you're suddenly racing in Australia one week and then England the next week, and then America, and then back to England, and all that. It's a simulation game, and obviously it's very easy to click a button and load into it. But it's great when there's a bit of realism involved as well. So you do a couple of races in the UK, you come to Australia, do a couple of races there, go back perhaps. So as the calendar goes through and we sort of see the different characteristics, I think it's going to be very interesting because the Australian tracks tend to be a little bit wider, a bit more free-flowing, longer straights. The British tracks, perhaps with the exception of Silverstone, a little bit narrower, a bit more technical, a bit tighter. So there's going to be, vast contrasts in driving style, the way the cars are going to be set up and handling. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the drivers handle those changes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, first top 10 shootouts of the season, and first top 10 shootout driver will be Bradley Mays, qualified in the final moments of that session into pin number 10 and got himself into the shootout. Get this, by 500ths of a second. Less than 500ths of a second over Petr Pavlovich, and only just barely ahead of him in the previous round of that as well was Callum Hodgkinson by 2.5 hundredths of a second. So there's next to nothing in between these guys towards the back end of the top 10. Next to nothing between these guys up the top end of the top 10. Maybe a little bit of a drafting game. This isn't Brad's fired off lap yet. Currently just warming himself and on the run too. So coming to the Melbourne hairpin at the moment, turn number 11. Flick it back to the right, up to the last corner of the track. It's all about setup here, Brendan, isn't it? Get that late apex, get the power down, and get that thing pointed in the V8 Supercar. As we go on board to start the first top 10 shootout lap of the season, Brendan, talk us through a lap of Donington.
Yeah, well, we haven't really looked at Donington much throughout the practice session. This first braking zone is a very tough one. You've got to get right out to the left. The apex is a lot later than you think, and you've got to be a heck of a lot slower than the car wants you to be to really get through the next couple of corners. Very fast S's down the hill. Flick the car left, back over right, use as much curve as you can. Another heavy braking zone down into the old hairpin. Funnily enough, not really a hairpin these days. Come back up the hill now, over the kink again, plenty of room here. This is probably one of the fastest sections on the track again. Braking on an uphill, this is quite a tricky corner as well, trying to get this right. Blind apex there, up over the crest. And again, we have another uphill braking zone and another blind apex. A bit tighter around this double right-hander here as we come onto the back straight now. Lining up to the right-hand side of the track, trying to find your braking marker for the chicane. Very slow, slowest part of the track. Flick left, flick right, miss the markers. Run down into Melbourne. Slight little crest, the corner comes up quite quickly. And again, another very slow corner, trying to line it up. You've got plenty of room out there, but it's throttle management coming up to this run into the final corner that's very key. As we mentioned before, as far right as possible, using the widest line through the final corner, hugging that inside ripple strip there, running it out, and that is a lap of Donington from Brad Mays, our first top 10 shootout.
And he's gone slower than his practice time.
Yeah, slower than his qualifying.
A few little mistakes in that lap, and we'll get the opportunity for Brad to join us here in the qualifying booth. Brad, nerves obviously on that first lap. We saw a fraction deep at turn number 1. Fraction deep, a couple spots in through the lap, tried to pick up the throttle and get yourself rolling, and it just wasn't to be on that one, unfortunately.
Nah, she's definitely a bit slippery, and I haven't raced on this track since Toka Touring Car back on PlayStation 1.
Wow, that's a throwback.
It's Donington Park. It's up, it's down, it's tricky. We're just talking to Brandon throughout the lap as well, as Callum Hodgkinson's going to start his lap into the run down to turn number 1. Braking zones are either uphill, downhill, or late apex, where you really got to carry that brake. It takes a lot of finesse to get a lap around here.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit too slippery for my liking.
All right, mate. How are you feeling in terms of qualifying versus race? Think you can hang on to them?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable in race pace.
Okay, mate. Well, best of luck. We'll leave you with it for tonight, and congratulations on the lap. Congratulations for making the 10.
Yeah, mate.
Already we see the inboard there from Cullen. You see the inputs he's putting into the wheel, very twitchy, trying to get that car settled. He hasn't really got the car under control. He's really throwing it through these corners here. Just trying to find some grip on exit. Not really committing to those corners either. Again, those late apexes coming into effect.
But the way I like it at this stage of the lap too is you compare, if you have a look at the sector times, it shows it, but I wasn't even looking at those sector times. What I can see is that Callan's actually being a lot more accurate through the lap. He's gone purple. It's the best times across the board. Through the chicane, it was very nice and flowing. Used the width of the track on the anchors down here, under brakes, runs wide. What do you reckon, 2/10 in that, Brandon?
Yeah, if not more, it certainly cost him a lot of time. Managed to gather it up quite nicely though. It hasn't affected him too badly. You see just a little bit nervous under brakes there coming through the last corner as well, but manages to get it round. Interesting lap there from Cullen Hodgkinson. I need to get that right. I try to say it fast. I say it with too much confidence. That's my problem.
Well, he's picked up an incident point there somewhere in the lap because the lap hasn't counted. So he's made it here into the broadcast booth to talk to us about the lap. The lap got denied somewhere throughout the piece there, Colin. The sector times were good though, so it looked like he might have been on target to improve. Where was the mistake?
Coming into the S with that little S bend there off the back straight.
Just dip.
Took a bit too much curb.
Righto.
Yeah, just a bit of a bug of it. Oh well.
Oh, well, first ever time in the top 10 shootout, mate. Donington Park, we're talking about likeness as probably a British Phillip Island, obviously a lot older than a British Phillip Island as well. It's about getting the car to turn in nicely. She wasn't settled on power delivery as well. The rear end of that car a little bit twitchy. How are you feeling in terms of consistency for the race?
I'm pretty happy considering I didn't do too much practice, so we'll see if we can save the trouble and go from
Mate.
there, man.
I'll leave you with it because we've got to jump across and we're currently on board with Linton Willis's lap-mate. Good luck for the race tonight.
So, cheers.
So, Callan Hodgkinson at this stage, starting P2, will probably very, very likely right at the back end of the top 10. Indeed, will be dead last should everyone else set a valid lap time. And it's about valid lap times. You've got to push the margins to get a banger of a lap in here, Brendan, but a mil too far probably for Callan there.
Yeah, and it's something we never really discussed. You can see as Lyndon goes through the chicane there, those the white and red marker pegs inside the apexes. Those are kind of your track limit guidelines, so you don't really want to touch them when you're in cockpit view. You're looking at them kind of around at Melbourne.
Well, that's going to be another driver that actually fails to set a lap time because that will count as
that'll be an excellent point.
Yeah, loss of control. So for those of you watching along at home, then we'll try and give you an update on these sorts of things, what counts. So dipping a tyre in the grass will generally, in a lot of cases, net you what we refer to as a 1x or exceeding track limits incident point, which will void a lap time. Any incident point will void a lap time. A loss of control nets you 2 incident points, which will void a lap time. So light contact with the wall will also tend to void a lap time with a 0x penalty, and Linton is going to pick up one of those. Was on board to have a reasonable lap as he joins us now in the commentary booth. Linton, it was looking good. The times were looking good. And then, what is it? What are you going to say? Too much jandle, too much right foot? What do you call in that right pedal?
Oh, mate, lead foot, mate. Like, I missed a bit of entry on into turn 1 and was just trying to play catch up, and I think I just got too hard out of the exit there and just lit it up.
I think it's something that we're seeing out of a few drivers tonight. It's the first time that they've really been focused in, first time they've had the track completely to themselves in a top 10 shootout format. Is the pressure something that maybe was in the back of your head just a little bit?
It was more just trying to get the whole procedure right, because I've never done a shootout before. Like, I don't really focus on race pace and putting clean laps in, rather than focus on sending it into quality for me. So, yeah, I guess never really done it before, so all of a sudden...
Well, I've got news for you now, Linton, as well. There's another driver that's going to join you in not setting a lap time, and his name is Stephen Martin, because there were 2 tyres in the dirt. Thank you very much for joining us, Linton. Good luck in the race tonight.
All right, cheers, boys.
And I don't know if you caught that, Brendan, but the old hairpin, there was 2 tyres in the dirt, and I think this is now an expression session lap for Stephen.
Yeah, no, I did wonder if he took a little bit too much liberty with the track limit there. Sort of used all the exit, and it did appear that he had 2 tyres in the dirt. So again, another lap that we'll see uncounting. And I think too, you sort of touched on it there. You know, a lot of these drivers, first time in the shootout, a lot of pressure there to set a good lap. And, you know, I guess the positive side is those that get clean laps are probably going to improve now, or could improve now, but obviously it'll fall down to their default qualifying order if those laps aren't set. So, you know, for these guys at the back, not a huge loss, I suppose. They're still going to be relatively in that same area on the grid.
Well, Stephen Martin crosses the start-finish line, and that means that we have now had 4 drivers attempt a lap. Oh, no, it did count. It did count for Stephen Martin. So the incident points didn't affect him, but Stephen Martin, you've got to be blessing your lucky stars. We saw 2 tyres in the dirt and went, that's a lap done.
Yeah, I definitely thought I was about to get an off track, and I kind of was breathing in at that moment, hoping that it might come away. Glance at the top of the screen. No green text. Yeah, happy with that.
Happy with that at this point in time. The 2 drivers that went through qualifying just before you both failed to set a lap. Was there was it, you know what, maybe I've just got to put a lap here together and I'll actually advance up the grid, or was there a little bit of pressure to perform there?
Yeah, I heard a couple of the guys chatting about off tracks, especially at the chicane area, and yeah, I've had a little bit of time out of the sim, so there's a part where you want to push hard, and there's a little bit where you might be a few spots up the tree from just getting a lap time down. So I think we kind of settled a little bit. I was still kind of pushing, but settled a bit to make sure got a time as well.
Mate, all right, we'll leave you with it tonight. Good luck in that KFC machine. You've always got my eyes glued to your car. I'm always looking for a free feed, mate, so good luck.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll
Ladies and
just.
gentlemen, Stephen Martin, you were always watching along on board for the KFC livery?
Oh, definitely. Peter Pavlovic ran that last year, and the amount of times I gave KFC a shameless plug, and I'm still waiting for my 10-piece bucket, guys. PM me, I'll send you my details.
Well, drivers that are currently out on a lap and in a car with no livery inside, it is the freshly white painted. I doubt that thing will be freshly white painted at the tail end of tonight's session. Daniel Schultz has finally been one of the drivers to get everything just about right. Sector 1 was not faster than one of the drivers that's been out there quicker, so maybe a little bit conservative in the first sector. But purple, sector 2, sector 3, 1 corner left to run. If there's no mistake here, you've got to see Daniel Schultz shoot to the top of the timing board. What's it gonna be? It's going to be a 29.950, just over a tenth slower than his previous best in the qualifying session. And he will move to the top of the board. Brad Mays gets relegated to P2. But Brad Mays, remember at the back end of that, Brad Mays started this top 10 shootout in 10th, is now looking at a worst of, what are we, 7th on the grid?
7th, yeah.
So, Schultzy, long time out of the rig for you, long time no see, and, mate, that's not half bad.
Yeah, look, you know, it was a slight adjustment between just the practice, well, the pre-quality server for the shootout, and definitely paid off. A small adjustment, definitely.
Mate, the time was just a fraction slower than the previous session. Was there some sort of draft assistance in that previous session lap? Maybe there was just a slight error in where you placed the car on the quality lap?
There was a slight error through the chicanes. I probably could have attacked that a bit more, but I didn't want to risk the off track there and get a time deleted.
And obviously that's playing in the back of your mind, in the back of the head. Sorry, there's 5 drivers who have now set out and attempted their session, and only 3 sitting at time. So obviously that does play a factor.
Yeah, 100%, man. You know, you kind of treat every qualifying lap like it's your last. But if you know there's problem places and that, you know, take it a little bit easier. Better to, you know, have your time there than not, because at the end of the day, it all plays up into turn 1.
Righto, mate. Best of luck here tonight. It's good to see you back out on the SRW grid.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
And now Brad Wall will move up and look to attack that chicane, and that was conservative as well. But from Brad Wall, the time looks good. He's up. He's up on both, so he's improved. Any green sectors you see on Brad Wall's time is sectors where he is improving on his personal best. There is no personal best for Brad Wall at this point in time because he has not set a lap time. The purple sector in that second sector isn't enough to go ahead of Schultzy. There'll be one more turn left to drive for the rolling blockade. Mr. Brad Wall will bring it to the finish line. It's purple in the final sector, and it's P1 for Brad Wall. He goes half a tenth, 3/4 of a tenth of a second quicker than his previous best time, and Brad Wall gets it done to the top of the timing sheets. Brad Wall, you got to be happy with that.
I am.
Mate, we're just talking you up during the qualifying session. It's been on the up throughout 2022. What's the goal for 2023? What's the target that you now got to assess for yourself?
Well, I want a trophy, and then I want to start competing with the faster guys up in the pro split or the Super 1 split.
So tonight, looks like you've got qualifying quite well put together here at the moment. So you're gonna start at worst. I think 5th is possibly the worst you can possibly start at this point in time.
Yep.
Eyes on a podium here tonight?
Yes.
Definitely on the podium. All right, Brad
Yep.
Wall, get the head down, mate, and I will see you tomorrow night for TCR action. Yeah.
Thanks, Scotty. No, I won't be on tomorrow night.
Oh, you bummer. I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Well, you did change teams on me, so.
Oh, no, it's your fault, mate. It's your fault. You said you weren't coming hard. Good luck tonight, Brady.
Thanks, Scott.
Oh! Brad
No,
Wall's locked
didn't
up. I thought it was Andrew Cowan that was going around. As I've got a separate monitor watching other action on my second screen at this point in time. It was Brad Wall on his call down lap. Brandon, so he didn't attack the chicane anywhere near as much as a few of the other guys, but that's worked out for him. He's found time in that final sector. It was about consistency. What's Cowan got? Where do you think Cow is quicker here? No purple sectors so far.
Oh, that looked like he took a bit of that peg there on the second part of that chicane. But, just going back to Brad's lap, it didn't look like he was over-aggressive, but what he was just very smooth, and obviously that's all added up to a clean lap time.
Oh.
Watch there from Cowie, trying to get the power down, coming out of Melbourne into the last corner. That's definitely going to cost him some time if he hasn't already deleted his lap, or off-tracked his lap, sorry, through that chicane. Comes across the line now.
I think he's there. He is there. He's not gone quicker than Brad Wall. So Cowan will log a lap, but it will not be to the top of the timesheets. And Brad Wall survives at the top. Another car, and it's going to be welcome to the Combox for the first time this season, albeit you'll be back here again tomorrow night. Cowie, return to the V8 Supercars and return to a little bit of success, but you're starting behind Brad Wall.
Yeah, I stuffed up the first corner, man, and that cost me at least probably 2 or 3 tenths. So that happens, but
So we saw a little bit of aggression on the loud pedal in the back half of the lap. Was that just chasing a time at that point? You were just trying to
pretty much, man. I knew I was down, and I was just trying to make up whatever I could. I was fairly aggressive through the S's, but I got it right. So I suppose my lap will count, unlike a few of the other boys.
All right, mate. Well, best of luck tonight. Get the head down, and we'll chat to you again in the future, I hope.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Moving on to Ray Oliver, and this for me is the driver I think we want to focus on. Look at the cleanliness. Look at where he's positioning the car. I think he's the first driver who hasn't made a mistake at turn 1, Brandon. That says a lot about everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And purple through 1, green through 2. For me personally, probably pre-season favourite, definitely Ray Oliver, one to watch. And I'm interested to see how he attacks the chicane because, we've seen him. He is quite aggressive. He does like to use the curbs. Very good at positioning the car. Yeah, he sort of looks a bit slow, really, but we saw there with Brad that slow, smooth line can work.
Well, he's gone purple again in sector number 3, and I want to note that there was a slight correction in the middle of the chicane. He has turned in at Melbourne Hairpin a lot earlier than everyone else, so he's got the car pulled up very, very nicely. This is looking set to be the new target lap time for just about everyone. Turns it into the last corner, it wiggles, it doesn't want to stabilise for Ray Oliver. The run to the line, keeps it to the right-hand side of the road. What's it gonna be? Should be a low 29, indeed it is, P number 1. And Ray Oliver takes it to the top of the tree. Ray Oliver, it's back up to the top of the tree, but my sources tell me that there may be a lot of Nathan Allen driving style in your V8 Supercar exploits.
Well, let's just say the Lion's probably going to get mowed a few times tonight.
Mate, I get the feeling that you're in this series because this is not a car and a track combo, or specifically a car combo that you're well acquainted with. Would that sort of serve you right?
I really think it's a boat anchor, but that's enough of that side of things. But yeah, it's just one of those things I haven't really had enough time to get my head around it, so that's why I'm just trying to do it to get used to it.
Mate, how are you finding the V8 Supercars in relation to other things, and what's the verdict on Donington as a track for these cars here tonight?
I love Donington and always will, but yeah, these things are still just a boat anchor and should just be classed as a taxi cab. I'm probably trying to get a ride share going on somewhere at some point.
Well, we're going on for a ride share at the moment with Leith McClimate, mate. Best of luck here tonight. We'll see how the night progresses. See you later, Ray.
Cheers, boys.
Brandon, that was well. who wants to point this thing straight when you can point it sideways and just go, yee-haw?
Definitely coming down there through the bottom of the old hairpin and just tank slapping it through the corner. Did very well to catch it, I think. As we see him come up now into the chicane again, a little bit nervous under brakes, just checks up a little bit, gets through cleanly.
There's no pace at all.
No pace though. Green sectors for him, obviously that doesn't really mean much in this session as it's his first flying lap, so no purples. Where are we looking on time? 1:15 coming through, so ideally he'd want to be sitting sort of maybe third, fourth. As we come through the final
I
corner.
reckon it's going to be fifth. I really don't see him being Schultzy. There was just too much time lost in the middle sectors. The time comes up on the board. It is fifth. So
Yeah,
Schultz
fifth.
will go ahead. That's a long, long way back. Remember, this is your second place qualifier for this evening, moving into your top 10 shootout. And, well, Leith, who needs rear tyres is, I think, what you were saying about halfway through that lap.
Me? Hello?
Yeah, we saw that, mate. We were on board. We watched the correction. It was a little bit too much fun coming through the old hairpin.
Yeah, I was taking it pretty easy. The front end was just pushing hard through that first corner and just stuffed me up.
We've seen just about everyone make mistakes at turn one. I think so far we've only seen one driver make it, and Brock Mottershead will actually... Ray Oliver looked the best so far through turn number one, but so cold tyres, the car's pushing a little bit, which is uncommon behaviour for these cars.
Yeah, it didn't do it to me all practice, and then for that, just that one lap, you get that little mistake.
Oh, well, mate, the qualifying lap did count, so it's going to be worse
Yeah.
than P6 start here. Are you expecting P6 now?
I'm happy with just getting a clean lap in.
All right, mate, it'll all count. It'll all go towards something. Best of luck here tonight.
Thank you.
And then finally, on to our final qualifier this evening in the shootout. Brock Mottershead is going to stick purple, and now the run to, do I throw the lap away or do I be a little bit conservative? But sometimes you can just induce a mistake being conservative too, Brendan.
Yeah, you can. It's very easy to sort of play it safe, and we see there straight away green split there for the third sector. So he has sort of maybe just backed off a little bit coming through the chicane. Obviously, of course, drivers have different points on the track. They are sort of, stronger and weaker, but we see the final corner, the run-up, he's taking a very tight line there. Didn't really go right at all, and taking that big wide line through. So as he comes across the line now, 1:29.4.
We'll do it. That'll be enough to take him to the
That'll
top
do
end of the board. If the lap counts, and indeed the lap does count, so he will move to the top end of the table.
1:29.3.
But it's only going to be just over Ray Oliver. But the lap does count, and the big winner there out of qualifying, Brad Wall, I think, sixth in the qualifying session, moves himself up to third in the shootout. So that's your practice results on board. That's what we were looking at in terms of the order they fired out. So Brad Wall will pick up 2 spots and move himself up. Ray Oliver will also pick up a spot. Brock Mottershead remains at the top end of the town, and those are your drivers who did jump out and set a time in qualifying. So unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage we won't actually be able to drop the qualifying, the top 10 shootout list up for you at this point in time, but I'll run through them so you're all aware. Brock Mottershead puts it on pole with a 1:29.297, just under a tenth slower than his previous qualifying lap. Ray Oliver will put it on second. Brad Wall will be your P3. Andrew Cowan. Daniel Schultz going to be 4 and 5. Leith McClymont 6. Bradley Mays 7. Stephen Martin 8th. And 2 drivers who did not set a lap in that session were Callan Hodgkinson and Linton Wills. Right, another driver who surged his way up throughout that session was Bradley Mays, who broke into the top 10 at the very last moments of it and managed to grab himself a bunch of spots by putting a lap together. That is the top 10 shootout. It's now been run, done, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We will actually go ahead and grab our pole position driver, who we haven't spoken to yet. Brock, the lap stuck together. We saw you were massively up in sectors 1 and sector 2. Did you try and underdrive that final 2 sectors? It looks like you were catching the car. You were chasing yourself like you should have been braking deeper a couple times.
Yeah, I did lose a little bit of time in that last turn there. I was up a fair bit on my best lap. I don't know, maybe the nerves just got to me.
Mate, you can only experience these things. You can only get better by being out there and making mistakes. And, well, it still counts. It's still on top of the board. Talk to us about the track. Talk to us about the conditions. A lot of drivers were complaining of push in the front end under braking, particularly in turn 1, the cars not wanting to grip up. Is that a behaviour you're expecting to perhaps come about in the race again now as well?
Yeah. It feels like it's a warm track. I haven't actually had a look. I've only just done a couple laps practice myself, but yeah, the front end wants to like slide out a fair bit. So you got to just be real patient and yeah, just take your time with it. Otherwise, you're gonna end up in the grass.
Talk to us about the undulations of the circuit. Brendan from the commentary booth earlier on in the evening actually likened it to a Phillip Island where there's a lot of sort of braking and acceleration zones that are either coming up and rising up or falling away from you at the same time. There's a lot of undulation up and down the track. For what is a relatively simple layout that at least looks on paper, it's deceptive. It's very, very deceptive. You think you can go deeper into corners, and then all of a sudden you've missed the apex.
Yeah. So basically, when you're kind of going down the hill and starting to rise back up, you've got a lot of grip. But then as you come over a little crest, you've got nothing. So it's like, yeah, you just got to time it well and use the grippy parts to your advantage, and then just pace yourself on the loose stuff.
Talk to us now about the race that we'll be about to jump over and move on into in a few moments' time. Standing starts, how are you feeling comfortable? Do you feel like you've got the jump? Perhaps you're feeling quite good on the run down into turn number one, be able to defend, be able to sort of set the pace, set the standard. Conserving tyres, conserving fuel early, we were pushing hard.
I haven't even thought that far ahead yet, but I'll just take it as it comes. Hopefully, yeah, it's a clean race, and hopefully I can finish on top as well.
All right, well, that is qualifying now run and done, ladies and gentlemen. Your first V8 development split in the books, your first top 10 shootout of the 2023 season. And the man that we've just been talking to, Brock Mottershead, has come out on top. We're going to jump, ladies and gentlemen, to a short break as we get set for the first broadcasted race of the Sim Racing World season. It is the Ashes season as we jump over to Donington Park in the UK to go V8 Supercar racing for the first time of 2023. We'll be back in a few moments. she's demanding food, gorgeous. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry, I'm just talking about my cat to my wife, who suddenly decided to walk in and say that she wants food right as our producer opts to send us live. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Donington Park as we return to our coverage here this evening in the V8 Supercars development split. All cats aside, that's a Vegemite car on screen. Might be able to feed my cats some Vegemite. They do like Vegemite. Not very good for them, but it is good as a one-time treat. You know, it is good as a one-time treat. Rear tyres on Steven Sinkovic's car. They are a one-time currency. You get about one corner out of them from Steven. Anyway, qualifying top 10 shootout has now been run and done. The driver on top of the board is Ray Oliver. That's not quite correct. That's the practice results. So the driver that was on top of the board from qualifying was Brock Mottershead, who got the pole position, immediately followed by Ray Oliver. Brad Wall in P3, Andrew Cowan will be the outside of row number 2. Daniel Schultz and Leith McClimate didn't quite get that qualifying lap together, but Daniel Schultz returning to perform. Brad Mays and Stephen Martin. Mays, a late addition to the top 10 shootout, knocking Petar Pavlovic out of that one. Petar won't complain too much. Got an extra loo break in there for the hour racing that's about to go on board. Stephen Martin of B number 8, Linton Wills off of B number 9. Callan Hodgkinson rounds out your top 10, all the cars that took part in the shootout. Then we move on to Pavlovic, Brett Taylor, Rob Visser, Steven Sinkovic, your 2 safety car drivers here this evening, Tyson McCoy and Greg Barber. Lights are on as the cars get set, ready for a start, and it's all off and racing. The run down to turn number 1 for V8 Supercars here at Donington Park. And the run down at turn number 1, dominated by Brad Wall from the second row of the grid, has managed to get to the outside here of Brock Mottershead. Mottershead will go ahead and look to try and hang on to that one. Schultz has grabbed a couple spots as well. He'll sit down into P number 3, but what a start from Brad Wall. He's been working away at things early on in the piece. Remember what we spoke to Brock Mottershead a little bit about? You're going to experience some understeer behaviour in this car in this first couple laps here, Brendan.
Yeah, definitely. Ray Oliver had a terrible start there, lit them right up on the start, and since found himself off the track there. But great start from Brad Wall and Brad Motherstead as well. Brock Motherstead, sorry. You know, getting off to an early advantage there and starting to build that time up already.
So Mottershead, of course, off of the pole position, managed to defend it down through turn number 1. It's going to be Brad Wall who settles himself down in, and Schultz, he's got the new livery, the new Sim Racing World livery, and Andrew Cowan pitches a brake, goes sideways through the chicane. There'll be a slow down penalty that he'll be currently serving, and he's going to go backwards in a real big hurry, much alongside Ray Oliver, who's down at the tail end of the field. Indeed, a fair way off the tail end of that pack. Penalty now cleared there for Cowie. He's in the box seat of a huge fight between himself, Stephen Martin, Brad Mays, and Petar Pavlovic. 4 cars scrambling for track position at this point in time. The run down to the final corner. Martin's finally going to get the position taken away from him by Brad Mays, but now he'll have a teammate to look through the rearview mirror at. And it's all going on in the midfield on lap number 1.
Yeah, definitely drivers still getting to handle with these cars, the cold tyres, the lack of grip, and certainly fighting for track position as well, as we see one of the cars there in the background shooting off, failing to get turn 1 right yet again. Certainly been a tricky point of contention for these drivers here at Donington.
At some point, I think, Brandon, we're going to have to throw back and have a look at that replay from Ray Oliver, but that'll be processed in the background. Race control just came through and said there was contact between 99 and the 11 of Stephen Martin, was the cars that did come to heads on lap number 1. No further action, the call. So now Ray Oliver will have to pin the ears back, and it's going to take an overtaking masterclass and a race format masterclass from Ray Oliver to put himself through the field. Difficult drive, difficult circumstances, but then again, Ray Oliver does like himself a little bit of a challenging race sometimes.
Yeah, Ray's certainly been the driver that was seen in previous seasons. You know, not always go for the best to start, sort of gets into his rhythm and really pulls it later on. Looks like a little bit of netcode maybe, if anything.
Not even a little bit of netcode. There was a mile worth of netcode in that one. As I like to call it in the States, Brendan. I'll let you adopt this term. I like to call it gap whack. There's a gap, and you got whacked by it.
Nice.
Pretty self-explanatory. Pretty self-explanatory, yeah.
Yeah, definitely sums up what happened there. Unfortunate for Ray, but yeah, as we've said, not uncommon for him to find his way back up through a field.
I know, so Rail finding himself at the back end of town is rapidly approaching in on Steven Sinkovic, and have a look at the cars crawling all over each other. 2 laps now in the books as they start their 3rd circuit, just over 3 minutes into the race at this point in time. Pace has been frantic early on from these guys. They will continue to try and settle themselves down and in. The guys up at the front, Mottershead and Wall, are sticking relatively close together at the front end of town. They've broken away a little bit from the 64 machine as Schultz now. Cowan's managed to hang on to 4th spot and starting to close back in on Schultz. But other than that, it's tricky going, I think, here in these early stages. Everyone's just sort of trying to come to grips. It's the first time they've done an extended race stint. Daniel Schultz has run wide there at turn number 6.
Yeah, coming in the back, straight, double right-hander there. Tricky one to get right. And yeah, drivers just sort of coming to terms with the car still. The midfield's all pretty well evenly spaced. Everyone within a second of each other still. So trying to find that track position, trying to also warm up the brake pedal, warm up the tyres, and also be mindful of those around them as we jump on with Steven Sinkovic now up into 8th position. So he's had a pretty good start, really.
Oh, change that!
So Stephen there just having to react to 2 cars colliding in front of him. Looks
I think he's just
like...
downshifted. Was that a downshift?
It could have been there was definitely contact at Melbourne before he arrived. I saw that on the second screen. And then obviously we see Stephen react to that coming in and getting all sideways through Melbourne. So I think that was Brett Taylor there. A bit of contact on Brad Mays coming into Melbourne. We've watched the replay of that now. We'll see exactly what happened.
DSL Welding Services replay will tell the story. As Brad Mays on the run down the hill. He's in a little bit hot. He's in incredibly hot. Oh, he's trying to avoid. He was looking for a gap. You could just see with where he was trying to position that car. He was aiming for the gap, and then all of a sudden the gap just sort of took it away. The critical thing is how both drivers sort of took that corner a little bit differently. If you had a look in the background, Steven Sinkovic had a similar moment and just narrowly avoided Ray Oliver. But Ray Oliver facilitated that by he opened the steering wheel. And sometimes as a racing car driver, it's about preventing the incident. That's it there. See, Ray Oliver could have taken the apex there if he did. Steven Sinkovic would have collided with him. Ray had the awareness of the situation to prevent that from happening. Opened the steering wheel. So, anyway, everyone settled themselves back down again.
It's an exciting start to this race. As we jump back now to the 2 KFC cars currently running in 3rd and 4th respectively. A bit of a moment there for Peter Pavlik. Getting it a bit wide on the final corner, loses a bit of time to his teammate. Now under pressure from Schultz.
Oh! Huge wiggle from Leith McClimate coming out of the last corner as well. He's about to get eaten all up in the background, so there's going to be dicing and slicing all through the wheel. Brock Mottershead has dropped the race lead, and it's going to be Brad Wall who accepts this one. We're going to get a replay of what's going on here. Where's this? This is on the run of the final corner. So this is turn number 12 here, the left-hander, and he's just pinched a brake on the way in. Lovely catch. Lovely catch, though, from Mottershead.
The little front left lock up there, and it's cost him quite a bit of time too. He lost a fair amount of time on the regain, and it's given Brad Wall a nice little lead now. Just pushed out to over a second, and the field is now starting to space out just a little bit. Drivers starting to find a bit of rhythm as we ride still with Peter Pavlovic, just opening up that gap again to Schultz. Do you think the team game is going to play much into this sort of series as you know, drivers obviously learn off each other, Scotty, and work together? How is that going to impact drivers throughout the season?
Look, there's sort of 2 things when you talk team games. There's team tactics, and I just don't think we've got the depth of field that we need for team tactics, but I think teams working together, talking to each other, what braking mark are you using here, what brake bias are you using, how are you driving the car, as Ray Oliver says, how are you driving the car? Linton Wills asks a few questions and comes away the recipient of P number 10. 2 cars fighting on track just ahead of these guys, as well as Rob Visser and Leith McClimate. Visser in the Vegemite car. He's going to try and lay some Vegemite down out of the rear end of that car as he gets some traction from the last corner, looking to chase down Leith McClimate, who's gone backwards in the opening stages of these sorts of things. But moving back to the question raised by Brendan, yeah, look, I think it's going to be a learning though. I think you're 100% right. It's talking, it's communicating. How are you getting around the track? I think with the lesser numbers in these series, is you actually get a really, really good opportunity to perhaps step out, have a little bit of fun with these sorts of cars and things, and talk to the other drivers around. Jump in the open chat. Why not talk to all the other drivers that are actually out there on chat and have a bit of a giggle and a laugh and a hoot with them?
Yeah, I tend to agree, Scotty. Like, I think that, you know, as far as the championship is concerned, there is a championship for this series, obviously, but the team game, as far as tactics, probably not going to come into play, but certainly the learning curve, the opportunities, that communication is going to be there. And even if you're not in a team, you know, there are guys that are going to communicate, as we see Schultz that they take a bit too much of the curve through the chicane, but...
oh, huge moment. Actually in the background for Rob Visser on the way through the chicane, and I'm sure we'll try and see if we can grab a replay of that one. Ray Oliver sent it, get this, through the chicane on Rob Visser. They were side by side on the entry to the chicane. You don't see that.
Nah, that's real commitment and car control there. That's not the easiest place to pass. I've certainly seen it be done before, but it's always a risky move. Wee bit of a loose moment from Brett Taylor as he picks up the throttle coming out of Melbourne, loses a couple of tenths to Sinkovic ahead of him.
And this will be the TSL Welding Services replay of the action. Here's the run down and over the crest into the S's, colloquially known as the S's, by the locals here at Donington Park. And that is the story of how Ray Oliver earned himself P number 8 away from Robert Visser. Sorry, that was P number 9 at the time, as he's now got himself by Lee Climate. He's had another issue and run a little bit wide. So up to P number 8 is Ray Oliver from P14 on the opening lap. Brad Mays has had to serve a drive-through penalty for that incident, which I believe we were all pretty well aware that he would indeed do so. I think that was pretty clear-cut.
Yeah, tried to sort of self-penalise himself, I guess, by turning away from the apex of the corner there we saw in the replay. Tried to sort of, what's the word? You know, like give up time.
Readdress.
Redress, that's the one. Tried to redress the position, but obviously it sort of led to some subsequent accidents as well. So drive-through penalty, the correct call there, I feel.
Well, I think the call is correct. I think the reason is a little bit off. I think the penalty was issued because of the amount of time lost to the other driver involved, so and potential damage and potential race impact, race consequences. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the difference here between us, Brendan, is I've spent time as race. Have you done any race controlling?
I've done a little bit, nowhere near the experience that you've got, but yeah, we'll just leave it at that, eh?
Is it dirt ovals? Oh, I'm actually really, really curious about your background, because I know you're a dirt oval.
Yeah, I mean, primarily dirt oval. So I've done a bit of race control in dirt, and I have filled in just as the sort of secondary RC from time to time, more the note taker than the decision maker. But you know, it's been an opportunity to sort of learn to see how those guys do things, and obviously, you know, a lot of the same rules apply. I mean, obviously in dirt oval, it's sort of whoever causes the contact gets sent to the back, and it's sort of the same here, I suppose, in a certain degree. If you upset someone else's race, you sort of have to expect a penalty from time to time. Obviously, we have, you know, racing incidents a little bit more prominent here. We sort of let guys race, which is good to see as well. But yeah, similarities, but yeah, certainly probably not the experience in race control that you've got yourself.
Well, speaking of similarities, this is a similar one to the move before. Hodgkinson just says, yep, you know what, I'm not going to fight that one down into the chicane, and bails out on that one pretty early. Let's Ray Oliver have the position. And talking about learning, this is a great opportunity for Callum Hodgkinson to watch perhaps where Ray's rotating the car, how he's picking up the throttle, how he's braking. And yeah, there's some lessons to be learned there. Some big lessons to be learned. It's always an opportunity. See, when I was learning my craft here on the simulator, I never hated watching guys come through the field. I never hated it because it was a great opportunity to get some learning done. And I think from Callum Hodgkinson, again, same sort of thing, great opportunity, and you can immediately see the adjustment, quite on par with Ray Oliver through the slow stuff. So
yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of those things too. Like, I mean, you know, for myself at least, anyway, I'm a very slow driver in a fairly competitive team. So for me, I enjoy following guys.
Sorry, hang on. Can we back up? Did you just say your teammates are competitive?
Well,
I'm going to need you to walk that back. I know your teammates, mate. Competitive is not the right word for those.
A couple of them are competitive. A couple of them are competitive. A couple of them are competitive talkers, not so much competitive sim racers. But anyway, the point I was making, it's really good for me as a sort of, I would consider myself in this group of drivers, right? I'm sort of in this amateur field. I'd be quite comfortable competing with these guys. But for me, it's really good to get behind a faster guy, follow their lines, look at their braking markers, all that sort of thing. Exactly what you were just saying there with Cullen and Ray. Cullen lets Ray through. He's got an opportunity now to sort of, someone that he would consider faster than him, to follow, to learn, to observe. And I mean, Cullen's no slouch himself, don't get me wrong, he'll want to get past Ray, but he's going to take a couple of laps just to look, just to observe, pick up some notes if he can stick with him, as we see Ray making another move on Steve.
I think he's just having one up there, and that is Stephen Martin just allowing him a lot more room than maybe he was entitled to, Ray, over there, but...
Yeah, bit of an open door.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, now it's the same for Steve Martin. If you can stick with Ray, get on that slipstream, learn a little bit from it, it's going to develop the driver's racecraft, it's going to get them to take corners a bit quicker, and ultimately we're all learning off each other, which is really what this kind of thing's about. That looked like a bit of a lock up there as well from Martin coming down the hill.
Well, something else I hadn't even factored into the slipstream. It is indeed racecraft that sometimes you actually want the faster driver to go through. You don't want to fight them. If it's coming from a background of a lot of endurance racing. If I know that I'm not at the same par as somebody, but I'm only 2 or 3 tenths further behind them, I'll gain that the slipstream behind them every lap. I'm far better off following them and letting them pull me along than I am fighting them when we're losing time every lap. So Brad Wall, ladies and gentlemen, is going to step out and lead the most laps, I think, that I have ever seen Brad Wall lead in a race, and he looks comfortable. I can tell you that Daniel Schultz usually sits around and actually spots for Brad Wall quite a fair bit. So he's normally there and on the sideline supporting Brad, giving a little bit of feedback, a little bit of encouragement, telling him maybe some things that he's missing, and working on those sorts of things, offering fuel and tyre strategy advice. And Brad is out there, and he's the lead driver here tonight out of the two of them. Schultz, I think, has had a fair bit of time away from the sim and is a driver that's returning. But we talked to Brad prior to the race and said, hey, look, what's on the cards for 2022? He said, I want some silverware. Well, this is about how you go about setting the standard.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's made the goal pretty clear right from the get-go, really, that he's interested in winning some races, and you sort of have to win a few races to be able to really get up there and compete in the next level. It's all good and well being quick, bidding hot laps, by yourself, but to actually get up there and race against other guys, that pressure of leading a race, that feeling, that nervous feeling you get when those last few laps is really going to matter. It's that kind of experience that makes the difference coming into racing those big guys, because you've been there before, you know how it feels, you know how to deal with it, and it certainly makes a difference when the pressure comes on. It's those critical errors that you're trying to avoid.
And there's a couple of things in that as well. We talk about development, we talk about amateur, but normally the sort of standard progression for a lot of these drivers is A, where to brake, B, how to brake, C, how to turn, how to apply throttle, all of these sorts of things. And then you get the opportunity to work on your racecraft, because there's no point in I can sit down and I can show you 5 or 6 drivers that are phenomenal in their racecraft. But if they haven't got the consistency, all of their racecraft skills, all of their mental, there's no point in having that. This is a really, really good opportunity for Brad to work at his skills, working under pressure, being in control of a field, and dealing with that weight on his shoulders. This sounds really bad to say, but I actually really want to see Brad maybe throw this race away and not necessarily win it, because that just puts a little bit of hunger in him. And all of a sudden goes, I had that race, I had the ability to win this. Why didn't I win it? Asked a few questions of himself. At the end of the day, even if he does win it here tonight, he can sit down and go, hey, what did I do right? I did all of these things right. And it sets the tone, and he says, hey, I'm not going to crack under pressure. But even sometimes failing when you're leading a field, that is so crucial, because I can recall a lot of opportunities with a less experienced Lachlan Cape, whereby he put himself in a lot of these sort of positions whereby he was racing a lot of guys. He certainly had the raw pace and the raw talent, but the racecraft wasn't there. And I said to him one day after he just finished losing the championship, you will remember this moment for the rest of your time on iRacing, and you'll convert a championship out of it. As Stephen Martin, unfortunately, in the background, falls off the track coming through the chicanes. The tyres starting to wear away for these drivers at DSL Welding Services. Replay going to tell the story for Stephen Martin. Transitions the car in nicely, a little bit of curb on the right-hand side, and it just continues bouncing. And unfortunately for him, into the grass, but a great save nonetheless. And a lot of drivers in an amateur series are actually quite good at saving a car, Brent.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess they have plenty of practice at doing it too. But I mean, you know, just to further your point, and at the risk of stroking your ego, I think.
Oh, no, let's not do that.
Yeah, I think it was quite evident last year, like watching you in the TCR series, you'd win a race in your post-match interviews. You know, how was that race? Oh, terrible. I won the race, but I can improve on this. It's that desire of always wanting more that I kind of find, I'm losing the words, I kind of found that quite admirable as a racer, because yes, you've just won a race, but you're still trying to improve. You're always trying to get better. And that's what this kind of whole series is really leading up to.
I don't know what to say. I really don't know. That's a genuine compliment.
The Rattle Gun speechless. I've left him speechless. Can we take like a time and a date? Can I get like a framed certificate?
No, because I'm mentally reviewing those moments now, and I'm going, oh, look, that was, but now I know, oh, Leith McClymon's just going to save the car going through the chicane, and that looked like a downshift moment for Leith, but he's managed to arrest that one. We're watching Brett Taylor was his teammates. This is coming over the crest. This is just as he gets on, you can see the flame shoot out the exhaust pipe. That is the signifying mark of a downshift to the V8 Supercar, and that is his precise moment. That car unsteadied.
Yeah, and Callum Hodgkinson as well in the background having a bit of a nightmare. A couple of off tracks. He's found himself in the sand. He's fallen right down the timing chart now, back into 14th. So those tyres definitely starting to wear away after 14 laps. Some of these drivers struggling to hang on to their grip. Frankly, I'm speechless. I've left Scotty speechless. I don't know what to say anymore.
Well, no, it's because it's. You sit there and you say that, look, I was disappointed in what I was just sitting there going, man, I am just filthy with the way I drove tonight. I really didn't think I drove all that well.
I mean, we thought you were being a bit. No, I'm not going to lie. We thought you were being a bit arrogant at the time.
It wasn't arrogance. It was just me,
I'm just. In hindsight, you know, it was actually quite admirable. Like you always wanting to achieve more.
It was absolutely nothing about achieving more. It was just me going, that was terrible, Rankin. Get your act together, go on.
Yeah. And it's funny because, you know, we also talked about these guys creating consistency and then building racecraft. You know, I can think of guys, and I won't name them, who are just ridiculously quick but lack that racecraft. And it's so interesting to see the contrast in styles. Yes, there are guys out there who have genuine pace, but perhaps struggle to put that into a race. And then there are guys who have the skills, but just don't quite have the pace. And this is where this kind of... I mean, this series is probably more so targeted towards those who don't have the pace. A couple of moments there as Brett Taylor trying to get around Linton there, but... or Linton trying to get around him, but certainly some a little bit of action there in the mid-pack, and Steve Martin into the pit lane. First car into the pits.
So that's critical in terms of our strategies. We return to the racing action. 22 minutes on the clock of an hour race duration at this point in time. Ray Oliver, at the number in pink next to Ray Oliver's name, says he has set the fastest lap of the race. And that man has turned his racecraft poor positioning into anger, aggression, and we've seen the positioning of the car, particularly on the run down through the chicane. The only driver to make moves on the entry to the chicane, and he is the driver to get aggressive through the chicane and make those stick. Now comes up on the rear bumper of the teammate of our race leader, it's Daniel Schultz. And only driver to drop into the 29 so far, but sometimes it's really interesting to see how anger will focus a driver. To me, in it's something that can unsettle me at times, and other times it'll drive me and hone me to an arrow-like point.
Yeah, I think anger is probably the wrong word to use. Determination, perhaps, is a better phrase. Like, you know, you've had a bit of an upset, and you're determined to get back up to the front. There are some guys that really let it bother them, and they start just making mistake after mistake after mistake. But then there are the likes of Ray Oliver. There's, again, name drop. You know, the likes of Adam Hughes. If he makes a mistake early on, he becomes so determined to get back through. I've seen him start at the podium, end up in 30th position, and come back and win a race because he's just so determined to push.
And it's sometimes it's pushing, and sometimes it's toned aggression. And the drive I like from Ray Oliver so far this evening is that it's just making somebody else aware that you're going to shove the nose and you've got a little more pace in them. And other drivers have been willing to get out of the way. And he's not necessarily had a move on in a couple times, and drivers have just let him have it just because they know that it's not worth fighting. They'll make more time by not fighting, which is racecraft in and of itself. Brad Mays and Steven Sinkovic having their own little duel for the last spot inside the top 10. Callum Hodgkinson has now dropped off the lead lap as he's completed a pit stop already as well. Fed back out right in front of a few cars. So this one we will keep our eyes on throughout the course of the evening as well. Schultz has run wide. Ray Oliver has just spun the car again. Ray Oliver is facing the wrong direction in the last corner, and it looks to be a brake lockup or a downshift. We're going to see a little bit more of this on the replay. Jumps on the brakes. No, it was immediately on the brakes. He stabbed the brake too hard.
So as we watch that replay, Brock Mottershed, Brad Ward, Schultze, Peter Pavlovic, Leif Clement all in the pit lane. Andrew Cowie takes the lead of this race as we rejoin Brad Mays having a bit of a moment down the bottom in Melbourne as well. So we'll cut now to Cowie. He's got a fairly convincing lead at the moment, 17-second lead over Ray Oliver, currently running in second. We saw that little mistake there, opting to stay out, trying to get a bit of track time back before he transits the pit lane. Average pit stop here about 24 seconds.
The comment coming in from the stream as well. Somebody get the cats under control thanks to Paravox Gaming. Cats so demanding? Yes, they were demanding at the start of the race. They did want food, like children. The benefit of cats is that they can't actually voice their concerns. All they have is yell. That is their only sound, and pleasure. Yell and pleasure are the only two sounds that they will make. Now, battle pack here on for P4. This is post pit stop. Cars nearly running wide and off the circuit, really unsettling the rear of the car. Pavlovic is right on this one. Leaf Wills immediately ahead of him, side by side on the run through the chicane. Schultz is going to line them both up, and they go 3 wide as they run down the back straight into Melbourne. On the brakes, on the anchors. Who's got the bravery? Who's going to turn it in from the outside of the track? Pavlovic goes deep and out and around the line. It's going to be Schultz who got the car stopped and parked on the apex. He's defended it really lovely. Parked that car lovely and awkward. He's going to do it again down the inside. He's left some overlap there from Pavlovic, and Pavlovic is really going to have to fight this one. Wills will dive into pit lane. Hadn't made his stop as of yet tonight. Was looking to save some more fuel. Now it's going to be Pavlovic back to the outside. Did somebody tell these guys there's still 35 minutes to go?
Yeah, no, Will certainly lost out there. Both of those cars, both Ray Oliver and Pavlovic. Oh no, sorry, I'm getting my names wrong here. Pavlovic and Schultz, rather, just lined up either side of him in that run down to Melbourne, and he found himself in the middle of an awkward sandwich. This battle is just heating up here as we come down through the hip, and Pavlovic all over the back of Schultz here. Gives him a bit of a bump too by the look of it, just letting him know he's there.
How's your Morse code skills here, Brendan? Because I think Schultz needs to get the interpreter out at this point in time. We need maybe the Enigma machine potentially, because this is starting to build up to World War II levels at this point in time, as Pavlovic and Schultz will continue to go head to head. And both of these guys, I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, will have a grin from ear to ear the whole time. rubbing his racing in both of these guys' books, and they're putting on a display.
And one thing I really like too about, these kind of guys is that they have that level of respect for each other. They know that they can get nice and close, they can race really aggressively. And it's always good and exciting to see when you get two guys that can just go toe-to-toe, side-by-side, and the race leader, Cowie, into the pit lane. So Brad Wall will take back first position. Brock Mottershed moves up into second. Cowie pops out in third. Schultz and Pavlovic just in behind. Might get a shot at Cowie. There he is, just in the corner of screen as Pavlovic goes wide through one. Opens up a bit of time now to Schultz down the hill.
It's so easy in this moment to be caught up in the moment, to be caught up in the racing and try and overdrive the rear of that car, pick up the throttle maybe slightly more aggressively, burn some rear tyre off, but you're throwing away race time. Sinkovic is now falling back to P12 outside of the top 10. Wills is now in P10, and this is the new fight for P10 as it's Brad Mays up against Wills. Linton Wills will attempt to continue to hold on to that place for just another couple of laps, but the lap times between them not all that far. The main fights up and down the field at this point in time is going to be Motters and I think Cowan are just about next to each other. Indeed, they are on the race circuit for P2 and 3, so there's not a huge deal in that one. Schultz is a little bit further back.
Yeah, good little battle for the tail end position at the moment. Steven Sinkovic leads a 3-car train. Rob Vizzer and Cullen Hodgkinson.
I can tell you, 12th, 11th, and 14th are all next to each other on track, but all on different laps as well, which is not helping. These guys are still dueling it out. Look, Petar Pavlovic might have jumped over here, and it might be indeed racing in Sim Racing World, but I can guarantee you he's just about sick of seeing a Sim Racing World car directly ahead of him.
Yeah, definitely, and I mean, Cowie, to his credit too, he's done quite well out of his pit stop because he's made quite a bit of time on Brad Wall, and on Mottershed, sorry, and they're chasing down Brad Wall, who has an 8-second advantage currently over those trailing cars. Cowie and Mottershed here have a little bit of opportunity to perhaps work together, try and close that gap. Slipstream is huge around here, but you can certainly gain time by working together with another competitor.
How's the downforce on that front splitter? Is it incredible in terms of the wash? Like this seems like one of the tracks that the V8 Supercars will definitely experience a fair bit of aero wash. Settle in for Brad Mays' ride in behind Linton Wills at this point in time. I can tell you, Ray Oliver on the last lap has just set the fastest first sector of the race. That is the run from the start-finish line all the way down the hill just before you get to the old hairpin turn up the hill.
Yeah, well, Ray Oliver's last lap, 29.76, the new fastest lap of the race. Still the only driver in the race session to go sub-30. Brad Wall, not too far behind, 30.3, but still that's a good half a second off Ray Oliver's fastest lap. As we stay on with Brad Mays chasing down, where are we here? Wills really lost out in that little battle with Pavlovic and Schultz.
Oh, he had to pit. He hadn't pitted that.
He had to pit. Yeah. But it's found himself in quite an awkward position now, having to try and pull the positions back up.
So Mays really starting to close in on the rear bumper of Linton Wills. And Cowan is now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're an Andrew Cowan fan, that is what he's looking at this point in time. All right, Sim Racing car with Brock Motter's head. These two, and indeed Andrew Cowan and Riot Sim Racing cars, have gone head-to-head a few times throughout the course of Sim Racing World V8 Supercars series of differing varieties. So there will be certainly some history there. But I can tell you one, if there's one thing I can say for certain, it's that Andrew Cowan, with the V8 Supercar right in front of him, will have a grin from ear to ear and that infectious Cowie chuckle.
And just to update on the Rayola, the Supercharge, he's improved his lap time by a further 10th, 29.65. So Ray Oliver is motoring. He's got a 5-second gap up track to Peter Pavlovic and Schultz, who are still going in there with their little battle. Nothing in it between those two.
I'll put it to you this way, ladies and gentlemen. Ray Oliver was over a second faster than the next car on track. Every car ahead of him, he was 1 or more seconds ahead, faster than him.
And he's been doing
We
it
may
for
have
the last couple of
ourselves a safety car coming in the very near future, as well as Callan Hodgkinson has found himself in a precarious position, and that is going to completely and utterly eliminate the advantage of Andrew Cowan. And we are within the critical lap window as well here, Brendan, so I expect the entire field to be into the pit lane.
Ooh, that's a massive moment from Cullen. Just puts that left rear tyre into the grass, and the car says, nope, not having any of that. Straight across the road and into the concrete. And Tyson McAvoy sitting in the BMW safety car.
Mate, any opportunity for McAvoy to flash his lights? Jamie Dyke's another one that's exceptional at it.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see the safety car pointing forward. You know, hopefully it stays that way this year. No, we're going to back it up. So the safety car has been recalled.
So need to get ourselves an update. Unfortunately, the race leader has jumped through. And Ray Oliver and Andrew Cowan are both going to jump the pit lane.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's strategy or sort of reacting to the safety car that never came. But as you say, Scotty, critical lap has passed.
So we're going to see quite a few drivers running through pit lane. Indeed, I think maybe the car has returned itself to pit lane. Indeed, is Callum Hodgkinson, which I'm no longer able to see him on track. So what's clear at this point in time, the safety car has been called. We did miss our leader, so I believe they're going to try and pick Brad Wall up this next time by, which is why you saw the safety car backing itself up down the pit lane. Didn't want to engage itself out on the track and impede other cars. So at this point in time, a bunch of cars fuel saving. This is not a race that's going on at this point in time. This is Pavlovic telling Schultz to hurry up. Safety car's now at the end of pit lane and will pick up the leader this time by.
Yeah, it looks like Brad Wall's gone by, so we might not have a safety car after all. It sort of looked like Peter...
Just picked him up right now.
Oh, okay. I sort of wondered just because Peter Pavlovic sort of looked to make a move there into Melbourne and sort of backed out of it last minute, so I was curious whether the safety car was actually coming or not. Peter Pavlovic has dove into the pit lane. Interesting to see if Schultz will follow.
I think that's the wrong call from Brad Wall. I think he had to pit that last time by.
Yeah, definitely, and I think now Peter Pavlovic probably stands to gain a few positions out of this because obviously...
Who was the first driver to pit? It would be Cowan, I think, was the first driver to pit.
Cowie and Modest have pitted the lap previous, so they should...
What's happened to Cowan? Because
at the front, Cowie's sitting...
No, so Mottershead hasn't actually pit. Mottershead has not come through pit lane. And
No, he
Schultz
hasn't.
has also not pit.
So it was Ray Oliver and Andrew Cowan that went through. So Pavlovic, the leader of the current pit cycle. Schultz probably going to lose out track position here if he chooses to pit. He's going to have to go through again. Obviously, critical lap passed, so you would suspect that those boys are fueled to the finish.
Surely not. I mean, they might. Well, this safety car would need to extend itself quite a way for these guys to make it on fuel. It would have to be quite a way for these guys to make it on fuel.
I thought you said just before critical lap was gone.
Yeah,
16-ish to go.
Well, they only got 17 laps on that first marker, and they've been out there for 6 laps or so. We're on lap 24, so there's a sizable hole in the tank. They can definitely, from right now, they will guaranteed make it to the end of the race. Guaranteed. If they were to pit this lap, 100% they would make it to the end of the race. Anyone that pit on that preceding lap is most likely going to make it by the skin of their teeth.
Needing some fuel saving though, potentially towards the end of this race.
One of the bigger things that doesn't get discussed a lot about these cars is they actually have quite a slow fill rate. So any time that you can spend in the pit lane under safety car, not losing time, is time that you gain. Surely they need to pit. Surely they need to pit.
Well, they're staying out.
Well, safety car's coming in at the end of this lap. There's going to be about 12 or 13 laps to the end of this race. And I would have that. These guys would need to make 21 laps on their fuel to sort of make it to the end, which they were 4 short of. The guys that went the furthest were 18 laps on fuel. I would say fuel is going to be absolutely... We're nowhere near them making the fuel.
It's going to be very, very interesting to see how this one plays out with the fuel battle. Probably some of the more experienced drivers in terms of racing other series are probably going to try a fuel save. Brad Wall definitely probably going to be looking at a fuel save.
Can't make it. They can't make it. Surely not.
Well, yeah. Well, the last lap, Brad Wall was lap 16, so he's done what 11 laps already on. That's not how to do maths,
9.
Brendan.
He's done 9
laps. 9 laps. Yeah. But he's got to be under half a tank. He needs to do a splash and dash.
The thing that's got me, I think, is how slow these cars are to feel. Even if the entire field has to come back for a splash, for Brad Wall, Brock Mottershead and Daniel Schultz, it's gonna be a 15-20 second stop.
Yeah, definitely. We'll just take a moment as Tyson has a bit of a wiggle there in the safety car to thank promo department once again for sponsoring our safety car here at SRW. Well done, Tyson. Managed to keep the safety car straight.
Go get yourself some licorice, all sorts, Tyson.
May it stay straight for the rest of the year and not end up in the wall.
You've really put the commentator's mocker on him now.
Oh, I've
You've
never
messed
let
him
him
up.
ever since he crashed the safety car. I've never let him forget it. Every broadcast since. He's never gonna.
Because I give him the same stuff. How have we never worked together before, Brendan? How have we never commentated before?
If you're driving the safety car and crash it, you deserve an endless amount of just stick coming your way. Alrighty, so Brad Wall will lead the field through the final corner. Holding the field right up to the start-finish line as well as Brad Wall. It takes the green flag, trying to get the jump over Brad Mothership. And Schultz in behind with Cowie looking to make a move up the inside. And he's made that move up into third position now off the
Here
restart.
comes Ray Oliver as well. So Ray Oliver's trying to slice and dice and get his spot through. Follow Andrew Cowan through, and Schultz has defended that one off for now. Brad Wall will continue to maintain control of the pack. Who's got the speed? Who's got the tyres underneath? And these front three have only got a small amount of fuel left to go as well. A couple of laps. Mottershead's showed the nose, gets it down the inside and gets the job done, and McLean's the first time by.
Yeah, Cowie showed his nose there as well up the inside, so he looked like he was going to try and find a gap, but obviously not quite there. Cowie with enough sense to back out, but again, coming up the back straight, Cowie running off the line, trying to get a bit of an overlap there on Brad Wall, perhaps crisscrossing
Whoa, hang on.
the grass in the background as well. Oh, there's been contact.
No, there's no contact, but now we're 3 wide once again for the second time here tonight. They'll settle themselves down. No, they won't. Schultz will clean up the whole lot of them. Ray Oliver now looks for the cross over on Andrew Cowan. Cowan looks to turn down on the corner, but there he is, a Frog Leap juice car parked there, Cowie, and its name is Ray Oliver. It's the 99. Now he's going to go toe-to-toe. Brad Walls either lost the rear end of that car or had contact made with it, and he'll find himself in the outside barrier. He'll come to the pit lane for a pit stop this lap. You've got to be sure of something. And now it's Cowan versus Schultz versus Ray Oliver on the run down to turn number 1 as we'll try and catch up with that battle pack. We'll get a replay of everything that's going on as well. Brad Mays is off the circuit. Something's happened to him in the background of everything, but a wild and woolly restart lap.
Yeah, and I mean, huge contact. Sends Stephen around. Yeah, Brad Wall
has been
a really bad
Sinkovic.
restart. Hey, that wasn't his fault. Come on, we can't pick on him.
No. Somebody else has pulled off the Stephen Sinkovic on Stephen Sinkovic.
Right.
I'll throw you back. Actually, there's a radical race where I was guaranteed to finish on the podium until my teammate decided to try and get out of the way of me at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and made an issue of it. Well, somebody that's not going to get out of the way and is going to fight something and squabble something all kinds of ways up is Andrew Cowan and Ray Oliver. And Ray Oliver may have just picked himself up a slowdown penalty. Might have got away with that one. Schultz is going to slice and dice back down to the left-hand side of this camera shot. Gets the spot back away. On fading tyres, though, now is the Ford Mustang in the SRW livery. And have a look at Pavlovich in the background of this shot. He's going to go toe-to-toe by his way in, and Schultz goes for the slide bump down the inside. A little bit of bumping, a little bit of grinding, and they'll get out of there. There's conversation to race control. They're not happy with this one altogether, and Pavlovich now is going to come through and snag all the marbles.
What an intense little exchange there. Cowie lost a lot of time through the S's trying to make a move on Brad, but that opened up the door for Oliver, and Pavlovich says, I'm going to join this too. And we saw what's happened as Schultz now sitting right in between the two KFC cars. We're back again with this battle. This time Schultz trying to get past Pavlovich.
Schultz is looking at the other end of the KFC car this time around because it was Pavlovich that was feeling his rear view mirror. Now he'll be feeling Pavlovich's rear view mirror. But guess what? There's another KFC car still sitting in the rear view mirror. So it's a Mustang this time around. Looks a little bit different, Daniel Schultz, but I'd say you're having a cracking time. It's overlap left, it's overlap right. Remember that the drivers, ladies and gentlemen, that are on older rubber were Brad Wall, Brock Mottershead, and Daniel Schultz. So those are the guys that still have a pit stop that guaranteed do. And here comes Schultz on older rubber. He's going to slice it, dice it, and cut himself a whole wing of chicken out of this one. Oh!
And he's split. I think he lost it himself. He certainly maybe got a bit of help to finish him off. But the two KFC cars will slip through. You would think now Schultz would pit. He's probably one of the only, well, as you mentioned, needs to pit. Him, Brad Wall, and Brock Mottershead yet to make a second pit stop.
So the one thing that I've learned out of this so far is that Sim Racing World cars do not like restarts.
No, it doesn't seem that way. The team cars haven't done too well off that safety car restart. The KFC cars, they've done a phenomenal job. They've really jumped up. Ray Oliver, we talked about right from the get-go, puts it on pole, ends up at the back of the field, and we talked about him coming back through. As we've predicted, currently running in second place with just over 10 minutes to go now.
Big shout out to Paul Racing over on the YouTube chat as well, who's been joining us and watching the broadcast for the last 6 months. It's an absolute pleasure to have such a dedicated fan base as that we do here have, and even now at the 160 subscribers over on YouTube as well.
Yeah, is that promotion still running from last year in regards to the 1,000 subscribers? Does anybody know?
I assume it is, because those rigs are still there to give away. I know that.
Yeah.
There was some discussion. I can't confirm nor deny, but the last point of information that I had was that promotion was going to run into this year. So if you haven't already jumped across to the YouTube channel and given the old subscription button, not the thumbs up, not that one beneath the video, the subscribe button on the channel, That'll get us a wee bit closer.
And of course, too, we have our KAMA special event that was scheduled to be run late last year. That was postponed due to a number of reasons. I believe that's being scheduled for Easter.
I believe it. Yeah, Easter was the target as well. So.
Yeah. So a couple of good prizes and a couple of good weekends to do there.
Ray Oliver's just run wide at the old hairpin, which is starting to allow Andrew Cowan back into the picture. And on that last lap, Ray Oliver continued to be the fastest car on track by just over half a second. This lap, a lot of brake smoke, which you guys will be seeing coming through the front of the shot. No, it's all cleared itself by the time these guys get on the scene. Leith McClimate is now looking to get himself some finger-looking good action as he runs up on the rear bumper of Steve Martin, and this is going to envelop itself into a completely new battle with just over 11 minutes left in this race.
He definitely, you see straight away that the pressure that's put on by having that car through. Steve Martin, they're very loose coming into the S's, and it's created a little bit of an overlap here now for Leith. Takes the inside line, hugging that inside ripple strip, hits the apex, nicely done, bit of a crisscross, tries to get the overlap, bit of a run, but Leith will hold the inside line into the final corner while executed moves there. Yeah, bit of a defensive line there, interesting.
So that says that he definitely is worried about the response from Stephen Martin, and Stephen Martin's going to look to try and line him back up. Didn't get a great launch up for the final corner. Now the run back down to turn number 1 for Martin. Not quite good enough. Have a look at the brakes, though. That's the key thing that I'm seeing from this one, Brendan, is I'm not sure if you know or not, but I believe this may actually be a fixed setup series. And those rear brakes are glowing like a mad thing, which says to me that these drivers have got more brake bias on the rear end of these cars, and they're carrying those brakes so deep into the corners.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you that question a little bit before, Scotty, about the whole fixed setup versus open setup, because obviously Sunday nights we run open setup, so there is that sort of space for development for teams, drivers, learning, etc., to sort of set up the cars. But I do think you're right in saying that this is a fixed setup race. It's an even playing field for all competitors. Get familiar with the cars and then build setups from there for Sunday.
No, I've just done some digging. Not a fixed setup, it's an open setup.
Not a fixed setup? Okay. My point still stands anyway. You know, because this is the trial zone, you know. You take a setup, you work with it, you build on it. Take it to Sunday. Oh, and Steve Martin has a bit of a moment at Melbourne. We'll see him on shot just up here from Brad Wall, potentially, as he's catching up to him.
Trying to carry the brakes so deep into the corner. That is one of the moments. Remember what we're talking about? There's 3 ways you're going to lose the rear end of the corner, rear end of the car. That is carrying too much speed into a corner, and the rear end just does not want to go where the front's trying to go.
Yeah, definitely. Brad Wall had a pretty quick recovery drive, already up into 6th position.
That is...
That's not right.
Yeah, that's 10th from Brad Wall at this point in time.
Oh, right, because the overlay is not counting the... Yep. Never mind. So, yeah, 9th at the moment, I believe, now. That's really confusing.
Anyway, we'll settle back down on the action up front at this point in time, because I can tell you for a fact Brock Mottershead is really starting to put some pressure onto the rear bumper of Ray Oliver on Brock Mottershead. The battle that you're seeing on screen is the SRW boys going head to head, as Brad Wall's been the quicker driver repairing all night long, starts to close back in on his teammate, and I can tell you for a fact that Mottershead is starting to get defensive up at the front. There is nothing between our 2 race leaders at this point in time. And Brad Wall's going to make a mistake. Brendan, did you say something nice about him? You must have, surely.
No, I don't think I did. I had nothing to do with that one.
Damn,
I'll be
that's
honest.
me.
That
Oh,
was
he's gonna be
you.
filthy
That was
with me.
all you, Scotty. I'll make sure I send him a message after the race and let him know.
Has he been taking lessons from Sinkovic, do you think?
Possibly. I mean, you know, he is racing in the Spinovich team now, so... Finally, we see Wall head into the pit lane, completing a 2nd stop. Much needed, I think. I mean, the other key factor that we haven't considered as well with the whole Ray Oliver and Brock Modeshead battle, as Ray sort of drops a second, is that Brock still hasn't made a second pit stop, so there is still that question around whether or not he's actually going to make it to the end of this race without having to pit. Last through the lane on lap 16, we're now on lap 33, so his tank's got to be running on fumes at this point.
Surely he will have to come to the pit lane. I can't see him making the end of the race. Although, ladies and gentlemen, we are within the final 7 minutes now on the clock.
Yeah, I still can't shake the feeling it's going to need to be a splash and dash. I think from lap 16 to the finish is a bit too much to ask.
Oh, indeed. If we can actually go back up the front, there's actually been a change for the lead. As Ray Oliver's just gotten down and past Brock Modeshead. Brock Modeshead ran very hot and wide into the Melbourne corner. This will tell a story. The DSL Welding Services replay. And that's it. All over and done with. And then immediately into the pit lane for Modeshead as well. As that one plays it through. That's how Ray Oliver got the lead.
Yeah, and that's straight away brought Cowie back up into second place. And he's got quite a good gap now. Back to Pavlovic in third, so almost 10 seconds over Pavlovic back in third place. So sitting pretty comfortably as Cowie is second right now if he can bring it home in the next sort of 5 or 6 laps.
So Cowan's job now turns into one of defense.
Wait,
rather than
just say Cowan off track?
Yeah, Cowan is off track. You literally finished saying Cowan in P2 and he's run wide. The camera didn't even need to be pointed at him. It doesn't even require that. You've got a talent for it.
I genuinely thought the producer in our area was just having a laugh with us, but he's genuinely off track.
Well, he was at the time, so he's back on now. He only lost about 4.5 seconds.
All right, still sitting comfortable.
So Petar Pavlovic, after all of those things early on, and that toe-to-toe battle with Schultz, has now reset himself in P3. Thank you very much. As Lewis McClimate wants to have something to say about that.
Yeah, those Valve Motorsport cars have sort of just been sitting behind the 2 KFC cars, but not really contending with them. Someone we haven't really talked about much throughout the broadcast is Brent Taylor there, the second Valve Motorsports car on screen as we see. And sort of been a bit of a quiet achiever this race, really. He's just sort of been in the background. Hasn't
Who
really
just started
been
the pit lane?
boundary. That was Schultz into the pit lane.
I was glad. I was like, surely somebody hasn't spun. Surely somebody hasn't spun in the pit lane. No, it was Schultz, the last driver to take their final stop. He's going to pick himself up some fresh rubber to the end of the race. It'll be interesting to talk to Brad Wall actually after this race and say, was there a strategy there? Were you actually testing yourself? Just seeing what the alternate strategy would do? Because I guarantee you that actually might have been the strategy. It may not have been a race-winning strategy. I think it may have been, let's stay out on some older rubber and test ourselves against some of these drivers.
Yeah, and I think we've done the old commentator's curse again, because we focused on Brett Wall for all of 30 seconds, and now he's fallen off that battle pack, something drastic. But meanwhile, further up the road, Leith Clement there, his teammate, all over the back of Pavlovic, trying to fight for the final spot on the podium. Gets a bit of an tries to get a bit of an overlap down into the S's. Defensive line now from Pavlovic through the S's.
He's had an exciting race, is Pavlovic. He has been toe-to-toe with about 5 or 6 drivers throughout the course of the night. Add Leith McClimate to the list. This one is going to go on for the final 3.5 minutes of this race. Just about say, as Ray Oliver's going to cross the start-finish line at this point in time, I think there's 3 laps left in this one.
Yeah, that'd be about right, I would think.
About a minute and a half a lap. Yep. There's going to be 30 seconds left over.
To the final spot of the podium. Just looking at the race pace, it doesn't seem like this battle, obviously battling is generally slower. They're not really gaining any time on Cowie right now. In fact, if anything, they're probably losing about half a second a lap.
I think Ray Oliver's had a moment at the tail end of this lap as well, because remember we said that Cowan should have made a little bit of time, and here comes Modeshead as well. Into the last corner. We saw this moment from him earlier in the piece. Brad Wall. nearly identical to the moment he had right at the start of the race that handed Brad Wall the lead. And now he finds himself deep in the pack, P8. Schultz is the next car behind him.
Yeah, we jump on with Cowie there. You see the gap back to Pavlovic and Clement behind. Just enough breathing space to be comfortable, but not so much that you want to make any unforced errors.
Oh, there's smoke at the last corner. Rob Vizer's gone around. He's managed to recover it. That was just in front of the leader, Ray Oliver, actually. And he's managed to recover that one in time to not cause any issues. 2 minutes left on, or minute 50 on the in-game clock says that we will get back with 20 seconds on the clock. So I would say that the white flag has not been waved for these guys. Which means we have
I would think.
2 to go, yep.
But interestingly enough, you know, we talked about it right from the start. Ray Oliver qualifying on pole, obviously. Puts that top 10 shooting down. Doesn't have the greatest of starts, but we sort of predicted that he would come back through. And sort of much to be as expected, he's sort of done that. He mentioned himself in the sort of top 10 shooter interview that, you know, the V8 Supercar isn't really a car he's overly comfortable with. But certainly come to grips with it tonight, found some rhythm here at Donington, and has had a pretty outstanding drive to get back through the field. Obviously that safety car a bit fortuitous in timing to close those gaps up as well.
I can tell you as well, Brendan, I think Leif McClimate's just had a moment, so he's now fallen off the rear bumper of Pavlovic and back into the grasp of his teammates. Maybe you see the Valve teammates go head-to-head on the final lap of the race. Mottershead's going to grab himself a late race position as well, slowly shuffling his way back through the field at the pace that he possibly can. One more lap left to run now as Ray Oliver will cross the start-finish line. White flag will be in the air. That signifies 1 lap to go. And the podium's just about settled in. It's going to take a mistake from Pavlovic to deny him. And much like the top 10 shootout lap is only a mistake away. Remember, Pavlovic didn't scrape into that top 10 shootout. It was pipped by Mays. But the race pace has been awesome in the KFC car.
Yeah, I mean, sort of, you know, having watched Pavlovic a few times last year in the GT3s, it's sort of been a characteristic. He's perhaps not the strongest qualifier in the league, but certainly has good consistency on race trim, very good racecraft, very good spatial awareness, and he makes up those positions. So we jump up the front now to Ray Oliver as he comes down the back straight for the last time. Bit of a parade lap here for Ray Oliver. A few seconds back up the road as Andrew Cowan through the S's for the final time on the run down to Melbourne. Looking for his brake marker. Nice and easy, turns it in.
Do you light it up? Do you celebrate out of the last corner, or you wait till you cross the line?
You wait till you cross the line, you don't take that chance. If there's anything we've learnt today, the V8 Supercars don't take much to end up in the wall here.
Well, that's it. That's all she wrote. And Ray Oliver will celebrate in style over the start-finish line. Tonight's winner from Donington Park Racing Circuit Grand Prix layout. P2 is going to be Andrew Kalman as he will make his way across the start-finish line. Keep your eyes on the back end of that shot because that's Petar Pavlovic, and the Valve car's got a little bit closer on the final lap of the race, but not to be tonight. Leaf the Climate will miss out on that one. Leads home teammate Brett Taylor. Stephen Martin's going to grab himself P number 6, and P7 is going to be Brock Mottershead, who led a fair chunk of that late race before finally having to pit. Wills will come home in P number 8 for Alpha Venturi Racing. Daniel Schultz in the first shootout for that SRW car. Again, great placing late on, but untimely safety car and unset up for a pit stop for him, and Brad Wall will round out your top 10. A ton of laps led there for Brad Wall tonight, but had to pit under that safety car. That was the critical factor. Had to pit under that safety car to get the strategy advantage. Didn't do so. Finishes 10th.
Yeah, definitely sort of looked to be in control for the longest part. The safety car was definitely an error, I think, on his part, not going into the pit lane. And then obviously that restart, well, that was a bit of a shocker. Not entirely his fault in all situations, but certainly cost him. Then he was trying to chase positions while the field was still relatively bunched up, but all the while knowing he probably had to make that second pit stop. So yeah, strategy-wise, not the greatest race from Brad. He'll be taking away a few notes from this one for sure, and hopefully implementing them as improvements next week.
Well, Pavlovich is enjoying himself, celebrating with a few skids.
Creating some 11s.
Yeah. Is it bushfire season? Because, boy, I tell you what, he's
That's
about to
all
start
right.
one.
We're in the UK this week. We don't have to worry about bushfires.
That's the end of the race, ladies and gentlemen. P1 brings it home, Ray Oliver for Frog Leap Juice Racing.
Yeah, there's the donuts.
Well, he's celebrating. Is he going to get it in there? They're trying to get themselves a nice, pretty shot.
Trying to do some kind of
somebody's
photo
done some
formation
painting
finish.
on the road, though. Somebody's ruined that one. Who was that? Who would have done that? Was it that 99 car in the middle?
And
No, it wouldn't
just
have
in
been
the background, guys, Sinkovic there celebrating his 12th position with some donuts at the back.
Mate.
He was
Sinkovic.
doing some donuts down at Melbourne.
Steven Sinkovic celebrates finishing a race, right? So position does not matter to him. The only thing that matters is donuts at the end of the race.
Yeah.
Indeed, Steven Sinkovic will finish higher than his grid position, beating out both cars that failed to make the end of the race.
Big mover though, Brett Taylor. We sort of touched on it right at the end. He's up 7 positions from his starting spot. So again, another guy who started outside of the top 10. He's come home with a 5th place finish. So a really good drive from him. Peter Pavlovic up 8 as well. So yeah, interestingly, those guys that didn't qualify so well, making their way up through the field into good finishing positions. So we bring in our grid now for post-race interviews. Scotty, we got Peter Pavlovic here. Take it away.
Hey, Peter. Interesting run around Donington Park. Obviously, qualifying didn't go the way you wanted, starting down in P11, not getting to participate in the top 10 shootout. But they don't pay points for qualifying. They pay points for race, and it all came together in the race for you, mate.
Yeah, it surely did. Just tried to keep it clean and did literally 0 practice before tonight, so just wanted to keep it on the track, and it's pretty much what I did. And the safety car came out at the right time.
Talk to us a little bit about the mood between both yourself and Stephen Martin. That late race battle, you sort of found yourself boxed in and around Daniel Schultz a whole bunch of the time. Is it one of those things where it was a little bit frustrating, maybe, perhaps? Was there just a grin from ear to ear the whole time?
It's pretty much grinning the whole time and just trying to hold on for dear life. You know, there was a few moments there I kind of came in and locked up a few spots here and there, and managed to save it. So always good.
Mate, have you? What message were you trying to tap out on the rear bumper of Daniel Schultz? Because we saw there was a little bit of contact there a couple of times. Mid-corner, just give him another little nudge. What were you trying to send? SOS, send help? I'm faster, mate, let me through? You know, what was the message?
Just letting him know I'm there.
Other than that, mate, the attitude between you and Stevie, I know you guys have been teammates for a fair while. Is it a great opportunity to sort of, I think you guys don't necessarily get to race with each other a whole bunch. Is it good actually getting to sit down and chill out once again?
Yeah, it always is. It's always nice to race with you guys in the team. So it's always good, and you always pick up something from them. And just trying to get used to all the new gear, and just trying to keep the car on the track and hopefully put in a consistent showing.
More importantly, how long before you get him out of that damn Ford and get him into a quick car?
Nah, I don't think you'll ever get out of the Ford.
Righto, ladies and gentlemen, your third place finisher here tonight, driver of the 216, Peter Pavlovich, and Peter's sponsors are
KFC, Blue Run Studios, HRS. What else is on the car? I can't remember. I can't remember anyone else.
Steve, the
bad.
teammate? Is he good enough? He doesn't get a thank you? No, I don't think he deserves a thank you. Nah.
He's having fun being rocked all over the place. So,
ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, Peter, and have a great night, mate.
Whereas you too.
Moving on to pick number 2, and he's a regular here at the commentary booth. It's going to be Mr. Andrew Cowbell Cowan. Cowie, interesting night there in the V8 Supercar. You were off the track a few times. You were on the track a few times. Brendan literally, hang on. Brendan literally got through saying, "Oh, gee, how great is Cowie going?" And the instant he finished, you ran wide.
Commentator's curse, was it?
Oh, yeah, it was perfect, mate. He literally closed his mouth, and your tires were in the grass. Like, you couldn't have put it any better.
That's the only time I made that mistake down at T4. I was really concentrating on getting a good line, a good exit out of there. And I watched Ray mate go wide a couple of times, and I thought I'm catching him up here. And then I went and did the same bloody thing. Well, that's what happens.
Mate, he cut a motocross rut into the outside of that corner. You know, generally with the motocross bikes, you get down in those ruts, you hook the bike up, and it goes quicker. A little bit of strategizing there with Ray.
Nah, not in a supercar, mate. But that safety car, I think, if there had been no safety car, it would have been a really good spot, I think, because I had 2 or 3 laps on the rest of the field. From that first stint.
Was it a little bit of that conservation in the early going of things? Were you saving tyre as well, or was it just all fuel conservation at the start of the race?
Pretty much both, man. I mean, I was clutching into T1, I was clutching through T3, and they're probably the 2 big ones that put a lot of load on the car if you're carrying a lot of speed. So I think that also helped the tyres.
And then finally, mate, it's just been an all-round duel. There was quite a few opportunities there tonight. You were side by side with cars, and I know I said during the commentary tonight that Cowie chuckle. It's infectious. Anytime he's side by side, there's a grin from ear to ear with you.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of that tonight.
Ray got a great run on me going down the back straight towards the S's, and I thought about trying to go too wide with him, and I thought better of it. I'll try and nail the exit. I didn't realise that I think it was Daniel Schultz behind me got an awesome exit and got up the inside of me before I could go that way. So I think we were 3 wide going down into the big hairpin. It was awesome.
All right, mate. Well, congratulations on the P2. Sponsors this week are...
Well, Toyo Sim. So if you're looking for a great deal on the Camus wheel, please use our code PSR5OFF and you get 5% off. West End Motor Group, Too Easy Finance, Track Racer, Night Rider Designs, my own music business, Cowie Music. If you're in Brisbane, hit me up for a gig. Got a duo now. It's going great. Gunbusters. And we use the hashtag #TalkToMeBro for men's mental health and just to, encourage people to talk out.
Thank you very much, Cowie. It looks like you had an absolute blast here tonight. We'll see you again next week.
Cheers, mate.
And finally, do we have to interview... Brendan, do we have to interview... I don't think we're contractually obligated. I thought the words were, Ray Oliver comes to commentary booth, we ignore him and move on with the night.
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. So that's the end of the broadcast for tonight, folks. And
and I'm okay with that.
I guess we better ask him a couple of questions, because it was a pretty good race from you, Ray. Obviously, the start probably wasn't quite what you were looking for, but you managed to find your way back up to the front. Took us through the recovery drive, mate.
I definitely don't think that was my best day of using the old empty bag of talent next to me. It was definitely full of hot air, far out.
You reached over to go for the bag of talent in lap 1, and you're going, oh no, I've forgotten to refill the bastard.
Well, no, it was a case of where I was sitting, I had a car up my rear end that basically took up all my mirror head, so I was pushed off, which got classed as a net code. So
no, there was a massive gap on our screen, man. There actually was.
But yeah, just from where I was sitting, I actually got the hit and I went left. So I was just like, whoa, okay. So yeah, okay, it's net code, but it was just one of those moments where you're like, I'm just trying to just get through the first lap here nice and gingerly without anything going wrong, and then all of a sudden, iRacing helps us again.
Call it gap whack, because you got whacked and it was by a gap. Mate,
pretty much.
Recovery drives, normally I've seen you do a few of these now. Is it, I don't see you get flustered. I have yet to see Ray Oliver really teed off and mad. What does that look like when you're driving through?
So you obviously didn't see me absolutely goose up going into Goddard's?
No, we didn't. Yeah.
Well, we can find a clip
Can
somewhere.
we just like delete that for a second? Because I really goosed up.
Oh no, we did
Goddard's.
see that. Yeah, Goddard's being the last corner. Yeah, we did actually see that one. Can we have a replay of that on hand? I don't think we have a. I don't think we can jump to it momentarily.
Please don't. But yeah, that was an absolute muppet. I had about 3 things going on, and Dodzy was in my ear, crew chiefing me, and I just totally screwed up and missed the downshift on the first one, and that was it. The rears locked up, and I was going around. I was like, uh-oh. And then I've got to say a big thank you to Cowie for not cutting down in the S's on the back chicane, because I had the same thing. I just could not get gears on the downshift, and it just wouldn't shift. And I was like, uh-oh. And thankfully he gave me room.
Interesting race from the rear. Hang on. We've got this one. Do you want to look? This is a unique opportunity. Talk it through us, Ray. Come on, you can take us through this one.
Yeah, we talking about going into Goddard's, where I absolutely just get on the inside and just goose it.
Yep, there it is. There she goes.
I mean,
There's a tank slab.
I was trying to just outdo Nathan. I mean, that's all it was. I just wanted to stay away from the grass, but still outdo Nathan. I mean, and I think maybe I did it. I don't know.
So what I saw there was talent, and that bag got emptied again.
Yeah, I think the brain just checked out. That one cell had escaped through one eardrum and tried to go around and come back on the other side.
Hey, mate, well, look, that's the most often I've seen somebody spin a car and still finish in the lead, mate. Congratulations, you've set a new record. Who would you like to thank?
I'd just like to thank all the team and the Juice Energy crew, all Ports Gaming, FH Creative, Toyo Sim, and the Pet Dog Company, but also Dodzy, who was crew chiefing me tonight. It's the first time he's done it for us, and it was appreciated.
Big shout out to Dodzy. How's the fit in with the new team with him going as well? Because I said at the start of the week, I think that was actually a really, really good fit, him and you guys going on. How's he slotting in over there?
It seems like with everybody that's actually come across in the last few weeks, it seems to be everything's coming along nicely. We haven't had as much time with everybody on the track at once, but it seems to be all sort of gelling and everybody's in a happy place, which is a good thing.
All right, mate. Wish you all the best of success, and I will talk to you tomorrow night, I'm sure. Ladies and gentlemen, Ray Oliver comes home in P1 for Frog Leap Juice Racing and the driver of the 99 car. Thank you very much, Ray.
Cheers, all.
And Brendan, at the start of the race, I was thinking, look, we've got an hour here. We've got an hour to cover, and there's 14 cars on track. Well, it seems as if there was 14 cars all in one spot of the track almost all of that hour.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've certainly had races with more cars and less excitement. So, these guys certainly put on a bit of a show. There was certainly, some, dare I call them, rookie errors there that sort of filled, a certain majority of the race. But also some genuine pace and talent on display. Obviously just not from Ray there, as he alluded to. But it's been really exciting to watch, and I think next week, we're at Knock Hill, really small, tight technical track, as opposed to Donington, which is quite sort of flowy and wide and runoffs aplenty. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they handle that.
Mate, about the only rookie mistake that I actually wanted to highlight was the fact that I signed up to do this broadcast with you. That was a rookie mistake on my part, and I apologise for all that one. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. He's got it right. Next week, we will be coming to you live for Tuesday night AM V8 Supercar Racing from Knock Hill Circuit. It's got twists. It's got dives. They're a lot more aggressive than here at Donington, and there's going to be a lot more action over the curbs. Your safety car tonight has been proudly brought to you by the promo department. Warren & Brown Tools have brought you the round. The qualifying and the top 10 shootout were brought to you by Racecraft, and Grim Industries have also brought you the stream. My name has been Scotty Rattle Gun Rankin. Behind the scenes on camera, it is indeed Rob Sainted Lord, and finally Brendan Walton on your co-coms. This has been Sim Racing World signing off from your Tuesday night action. Join us tomorrow night when we go to TCRs and Formula 3s for the first time in 2023. What will the new year bring?
The total one, this is amazing. Up and clash heads again. This is like Chaz Mostert and Cam Waters. Almost the same situation. Better contact going down the hill. Sam Noble wants to sniffle Dave Coleman now. Sam Noble's on the model right now because, tell you what, Reese Tennant, Jamie Dyke, who just won away.